This is a CBC News special presentation.
Louise Arbour will represent the best of Canada to Canadians and to the world.
I will strive to serve with honor, dedication, and integrity.
Louise Arbour has built a career and a global reputation aiming for just that. And now it's bringing her to Rideau Hall. Today, she will be installed as Canada's 31st Governor General as this country navigates some choppy waters.
I will reach out to anybody who wishes to engage with me, to debate, to discuss. I will listen.
There are worries that national unity is fraying, with separatist movements in 2 provinces, and the U.S. president still taunting Canadians with threats of annexation. Wars rage overseas, divisions are stark, and global diplomacy is an increasingly delicate dance, one Louise Arbour knows well.
No credible, lasting peace can be built upon impunity and injustice.
In her storied career, she's prosecuted war criminals at The Hague, sat on the Supreme Court of Canada's bench, and stood up for the rights of some of the world's most vulnerable people.
There's certainly indicators of at least crimes against humanity.
Now she brings all that experience back to Ottawa as the King's representative in Canada, tasked with maintaining the country's constitutional order through whatever may come.
Canada is a wonderful country, shaped by its diversity of people, of perspectives and experiences, but I think shaped also mostly by a common respect for strong public institutions and for the rule of law.
You are looking live there at the Senate of Canada. That's right downtown in Ottawa, in the nation's capital, where in a little over an hour from now, inside that building, Louise Arbour will officially become Canada's 31st Governor General. Hello, good morning. I'm Rosemary Barton. Thank you for joining us this morning. The installation of a new Governor General, the most important state ceremony within Canada's constitutional monarchy and parliamentary democracy. Louise Arbour is one of this country's most celebrated jurists, and she will soon be King Charles's representative in this country at a moment where, as we alluded to off the top there, Canada's strength, sovereignty, unity, all being tested. Arbour herself has said she will serve all Canadians and says she accepts the role with a profound sense of duty and responsibility. And over the next couple of hours, we will hear more about what her appointment means from her, from those who know her, those who have worked with her. And we'll talk about her long and remarkable career. And as I said there, you're going to hear from Madame Arbour herself when she will give her first address to the nation as Governor General in the Senate once she is sworn in. There's lots of important people here today, lots of former Governor Generals, Prime Ministers, and others, and we'll talk to some of them throughout the course of this morning. But we'll also talk to another fellow who's here for all of the important days. David Cochran, the host of Power and Politics, joins me as well. David, this is it's a big day, it's an important day, and it's a very symbolic day, politically as much as anything else.
Yeah, there's a lot of symbolism here and symmetry here, Rosie. If you look at the resume of Madame Arbour and you look at the resume of the Prime Minister who appointed her, and Mark Carney, in many ways their careers, they're analogs of each other in that they each rose to the very top of the nations that are core, the institutions that are core to the functioning of this nation, and then went on to have significant international experience. Madame Arbour, of course, with the United Nations, and as a prosecutor, and Mark Carney as the governor of the Bank of England. So with this installation today, you have the 2 most important constitutional roles in our country being filled by people with impeccable resumes, institutional experience here at home, and global experience in a time of great global instability. And that stability part, Rosie, is incredibly important because at a time of instability, she represents, Madame Arbour does, institutional stability. Now, less of an issue now that it is a majority government than a minority government, but she is the guardian of the constitutional order. She is the referee, and she obviously has the expertise and the experience in making tough calls. And while there's nothing as imminent right now in June of 2026, it was 100 years ago, in June of 1926, that we had the King-Byng constitutional crisis when Mackenzie King, his request to prorogue Parliament was denied by Lord Byng of Vimy, who then gave Arthur Meehan, the Conservative leader at the time, the chance to become Prime Minister. And this was one of the big, great flashpoints of tension between the Prime Minister's office and the Governor-General in Canadian history. And so a symmetry again, that 100 years to the month, we're getting a new Governor-General.
We won't wish that on Madame Arbour, though, that kind of challenge at
Don't
the
wish
beginning.
that on us
But that was at least part of, I think, the Prime Minister's thinking, not only her, as you talked about, her respect and dedication to public service institutions, but also her knowledge, of course, of the Constitution and the law. On the right of your screen there, you're going to see people starting to arrive here for the ceremony inside the Senate, and that is also where we will find our own Ashley Burke inside the Senate building of Canada, where she is watching people as they arrive. Ashley.
Rosie, I'm standing in front of the red carpet, and that's where dignitaries are starting to show up, walk by, and head into the chamber, all here to witness this moment when Louise Arbour becomes the next Governor General. So far, not long ago, we saw former Prime Minister Joe Clark walk by. Inside, former Governor General David Johnston is talking to people. We also had a chance to speak to current astronaut Jeremy Hansen. There are also the current and former ambassadors to the UN here. We've seen cabinet ministers. We're expecting friends and family and many more to be here for this. And we're going to be watching to see what Madame Arbour says about her mandate, what her priorities will be, what she wants to focus on. I was there when the Prime Minister announced her appointment, and she said she wanted to serve with integrity, and she talked about how she had a deep respect for the core values of Canada, which includes a diversity of people, and as well deep respect for the rule of law. But what exactly does she want to focus on? What does she want her mandate to look like? That's what we're going to be watching for today.
Yep. Okay, Ashley, thank you so much for that. We'll come back to you, of course, through the morning. That issue of the mandate or the issues that Louise Arbour wants to take on as Governor General, very important, of course, over the next several years. But obviously, she will also decide what kinds of things she wants to do, where she wants to go, what she wants to hear from Canadians. She brings a wealth of experience to Rideau Hall, as we've been talking about. She has been a champion for justice, a defender of civil liberties for her entire life. And that work has earned her a reputation, not just in Canada, but as David alluded to, right around the globe.
I'm going to tell you one thing. I would not be in this business if I didn't believe in the law.
If there is a single thread running through Louise Arbour's career, that might be it.
I think the law is very clear. There is no immunity.
Belief in the rule of law and a dogged pursuit of justice.
The victims were entitled to expect protection from each one of these accused.
Born and educated in Montreal, Arbour was appointed to the Supreme Court of Ontario in 1987, then 3 years later to Ontario's Court of Appeal. In the mid-90s, she grabbed headlines with a scathing report into conditions at the prison for women in Kingston, Ontario.
An institutional culture that is not respectful of the law.
But it was Arbour's next move that would make history.
It's very clear who is preventing us from ascertaining the truth.
As chief prosecutor for the International Criminal Tribunals for the former Yugoslavia and Rwanda, she helped secure the first genocide conviction since the 1948 Genocide Convention and the indictment of Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic.
For the murder of over 340 identified Kosovo Albanians.
She left that position in 1999 to accept a seat at the Supreme Court of Canada, retiring 4 years later to become the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights.
I will do everything in my power to ensure that people everywhere receive what they are entitled to, not because of their accomplishments, but because of their humanity.
Canadians have most recently seen Arbour presenting the findings of her inquiry into sexual harassment in the Canadian military.
What's happening in the military system is not sustainable.
All of it, the Prime Minister says, leads her to be uniquely qualified for this role.
Her work matters in and of itself. It also tells us something about what Louise Arbour will bring to Rideau Hall. The conviction that institutions are the load-bearing walls of a civil society.
And as we see the VIPs beginning to arrive, let's bring in a VIP herself, Adrienne Clarkson, the 26th Governor General of Canada. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Rosie.
Beautiful day, so I'm glad to see you here.
You're haloed.
I will
are
take it. I will
haloed.
take it. Few people obviously know what this is like, what this day is like. So maybe just take us back to what you remember from your day.
Well, it was October, and it was very cold. And usually it is in October when Parliament's in session, but this time it's in summer, so it's lovely. And wonderful weather, and a very good harbinger for Louise, who is a most wonderful person.
Yes, and you've known her for a while.
Oh, I've known her for a long time. She was on the Supreme Court when I was Governor General. Then she went to the UN, to the International Crisis Group. And I will tell you something now to the nation via CBC.
Okay.
We share the same birthday.
Oh, that's right. Someone told me that. That's right. How lovely. Yeah.
Yes, so whenever I read, Aquarius, etc., I think, what is Louise doing with this today?
What advice would you give Madame Arbour today as she starts her role, starts her mandate, and thinks about what she wants to bring to it and what she wants to bring to the country?
Well, I think she already brings a great deal of knowledge of the world, and that's very valuable for Canadians. Although Canadians are very sophisticated people, we have to be living north of the people that we live north of, and she's also had a wonderful experience with fearlessness and courage, and I think that stands you in good stead. Sometimes it doesn't show in little things that you have to do, but the big things, being able to indict a sitting head of government like Slobodan Milosevic, and she just sort of did that. She's a wonderful role model. She has a wonderful sense of humor, and I think what she has to get used to and will enjoy is traveling the country and meeting Canadians. And that is the thing that I think is the greatest privilege for a Governor General. And that I think she will like that. I really do.
I heard an interview you did over the weekend where you talked about how you and your husband, John Ralston Saul, really wanted to see every piece of the country and multiple times, but it's a big country, and I imagine that can be daunting as something that a Governor General has to do.
I know, but on the other hand, when they want you to do it, and you also, people want you to come, and they don't want you just to drop in to give a medal or cut a ribbon. I never cut a ribbon.
Okay.
The closest I came to was I cut a sinew, a caribou sinew in Dawson City. But I said no ribbon cutting. Anyway, we took her on a trip to the north with a group of Canadians, because we were always wanting to introduce Canadians to the north. So she was introduced to the north by us.
Nice.
And so that was a memory that I have always with that. And I think what I really believe is that the Governor General has the privilege of meeting Canadians where they live. It's one thing for them to come to Ottawa and get honors, and those are important.
Sure.
But the other thing is to see them where they live, to see what they're thinking about, how they're thinking about things in the place where they live.
And how important do you think that is right now, given some of the things that we're dealing with, whether it be separatist movements, whether it be the threats from the United States? How important is the role of a Governor General in this moment?
I think it's a great role. It's a great unifying role. It's a great symbolic role of we are here, and the Governor General is the de facto head of state. All laws are signed into law by the Governor General. Nothing goes to London. I mean, we don't have that relationship. No. London never. I mean, I met the Queen. We had a lovely relationship. She was a very interesting person. But there's nothing legally that does since 1931 and the Statute of Westminster. Everything is signed into law here in Canada by the Governor General.
What would you say to people who think, it's the Governor General, it's symbolic, it's ceremonial, it's not the most important job in this country? What would you say to those people who sort of are a little skeptical about why this matters on this day?
I think why it matters is that we are very fortunate to have inherited the Westminster system of Parliament, and we have the buck stops there at the top. The laws have to be signed. There has to be legitimacy in a country, and that's what you're very well aware of when you're Governor General, when you give royal assent to bills. The most wonderful moments for me were signing the Nisga'a agreement. Right. The territorial agreement of the Nisga'a people, and also that the civil unions was passed while I was Governor General. Those two things will always be very meaningful to me personally.
Yes. Have you spoken to Madame Arbour since?
Oh yes, I called her immediately,
okay.
and it was really fun because we introduced her to the north, so maybe she'll invite us back to the north again. I don't know. I didn't say that, did I?
You're waiting, though. You're waiting for the invitation. You also said today is an important day for you. 60 days. Was it 60 years since your first broadcast?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, no, it's, 60, yes. Yeah, in 1965, I started in black and white television live. And that, to me, is one of the greatest memories. Oh, those years were wonderful. I enjoyed them very much.
Well, you've still got it, Madame Clerks. Thank you for stopping by. Very
It's
nice to see you.
lovely to talk to you always, Rosie.
Yes, you as well. Thank you so much. That, of course, is Adrienne Clarkson. We talked a little bit there with Madame Clarkson about what a Governor General does, because Louise Arbour's new role comes with a wide array of responsibilities, some ceremonial, others that could rely on her legal knowledge. Here's a bit of a primer on the role of Governor General in Canada.
The Governor General is the King's representative in Canada, ensures there's a functional government. The GG swears in the Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, and the Chief Justice, and also delivers the speech from the throne laying out the government's priorities. The Governor General turns bills into law by giving them final approval or royal assent. Also holds the title of Canada's Commander-in-Chief. You'll see them at military events supporting members of the Canadian Armed Forces. The Governor General represents the country abroad and welcomes foreign ambassadors and heads of states to this country. They also give out a lot of awards, like the Order of Canada, and travel across the country with the goal of bringing Canadians together.
Ahead of today's ceremony, Louise Arbour met with King Charles at Buckingham Palace. That happened just last week. The Governor General, of course, the King's representative in Canada. The meeting in London was more of a formality after Charles approved her appointment as Governor General upon the suggestion, advice of the Prime Minister. There they are at Buckingham Palace. She was there with her daughter, Emily Taman, who I was able to talk to last week. So it was a pretty special moment for her and her mom, as you can well imagine. Janice McGregor is outside the Senate of Canada building, where many people are arriving for the beginning of the ceremony, which starts at 10 a.m. Eastern. Janice, how are you?
I'm well, and you know, one of the privileges, Rosie, of being in this location beside the red carpet is seeing people as they come in. I was talking to former Federal Justice Minister Alan Rock, and he was talking about how he considers Louise Arbour to be one of the most accomplished Canadians of her generation. He said she has an irresistible personality. He's known her for years in various legal contexts. And he thinks Mark Carney actually might be able to use her in a soft diplomacy role, knowing that she has already relationships around the world, which I thought was very interesting. On the day she was announced, questions arose about sort of her ability to go from being very outspoken on important legal matters, of course being a Supreme Court justice, transitioning to a role that is more ceremonial, that is more about, you know, sometimes pinning medals on people. And she said, look, you know, those medal ceremonies are part of what makes us human. And she understands the difference between, you know, the personal opinions she could express in the past and the need now to be a more neutral voice representing the government. And she understands there may be people who have disagreed with some of her judicial rulings in the past, but it's her job now to engage with everyone, listen to everyone in this new job. She also took a really kind of interesting question on the day she was announced from one of our Francophone colleagues who asked point blank in French if she was a monarchist. And her answer was super interesting. She said that unfortunately that term, monarchist, it has been considered pejorative. Now that caused a bit of a ripple, including among people who are enthusiastic and proud monarchists in this country. But she went on to talk about how the role she assumes is so important in Canada's constitutional monarchy. And she thinks this is a system that has served Canada very well. It provides continuity in democratic institutions. And in that vein, it was one that she was sort of a role that she was accepting with serenity and enthusiasm. So I think it will be interesting to see the stamp she puts on this as the representative of the Crown, because it's important on a day like today to refresh our knowledge of civics in this country and remember that the Crown, King Charles is the King of Canada. A Canadian citizen represents him here at the heart, the foundation of all our democratic institutions. And this is a really important transition in that sense.
And at a time when stability and continuity are sort of the order of the day, even more
Absolutely.
important right now. Janice, thank you so much for that. We will come back to
you're
you.
welcome.
That's Janice McGregor, just outside the Senate there by the red carpet. Let's give you a sense of how things are going to unfold over the next number of hours. In about 10 minutes' time or so, the Prime Minister and the Governor General designate will arrive here at the Senate. The formal ceremony starts at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's just a little over half an hour from now. And soon after, Louise Arbour will give her first address to the nation as the new Governor General, where we are, as Ashley mentioned earlier, expecting to hear a little bit more about her vision, what she wants to bring to the job during her mandate, what she'll be listening for from Canadians. She talked a lot about that when she was announced as the next Governor General. And then she will visit the National War Memorial, which is just near where we are, of course, in her first official act as Governor General and the Commander-in-Chief, of course. She will lay flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier, and then she will make her way to Rideau Hall, her new house, her new digs, if you will. Louise Arbour replaces Mary Simon, who retires this morning after 5 years in the job as Canada's first Indigenous Governor-General. She was committed to the pursuit of reconciliation. Work, she told me recently, she hopes remains at the forefront as her successor takes on the role. Certainly there will be lots of nods to reconciliation and to Indigenous peoples throughout the ceremony today as well. There you see on your screen Mary Simon departing Rideau Hall, making her way downtown here to the Senate of Canada. I know, David, you and I have both talked to the Governor General and to her husband, Whit Fraser. They enjoyed their time, but they're also looking forward to moving to a different phase of their lives. They brought a lot to that role, and it'll be interesting to see how it gets sort of redefined now by Louise Arbour.
Yeah, they're downsizing quite substantially.
Yes,
when you move out of Rideau Hall, you tend to go to a slightly smaller place. I think it's an old cottage that's been in the family for quite some time. It was interesting, with Mary Simon, there was obviously no controversy around any of her, credentials and qualifications and commitment. There was the issue around her speaking multiple Canadian languages, just not the two official languages, which is a scenario that has obviously been avoided with the appointment of Louise Arbour, which sort of speaks to that point of stability, business competence, and no controversy around an appointment like this, right? That there was no attempt with the Prime Minister here to do something flashy and send a message beyond a serious person at a serious time for a serious job. And that is in no way, I'm not saying that in any way to say Mary Simon was none of those things. Yeah. It's just that when you look at the pick of a Governor General, it tries to capture sort of the moment in the country, but also is a reflection of the priorities of the person who does the choosing, or at least the recommending to the King on this particular point. But I thought Mary Simon, despite the controversy around the linguistic issues, having an Inuk woman in that role for a period of time is a remarkable one in the country's history. Yep. When you look at the way the nation was founded and the way it's evolved and grown over the last century and a half, in the long arc of history, I think people may view this a little bit differently because of what she was able to focus on in terms of advancing Indigenous issues, and also a focus on mental health. Civil treatment in the internet age was another thing that Mary Simon was quite keen on tackling, because as we know, the divisions and the social cleavages that are happening in the country and in society because of the way internet culture and the ability to be cruel from far has changed the discourse of communities and of the nation and of our politics and everything as well. This was something that she really wanted to put an emphasis on during her time at Rideau Hall. We don't yet know what Madame Arbour will prioritize. I would suspect she might be a little bit relieved that she's probably not going to have to deal with a minority parliament situation, because not that is beyond, yes, but at least in the short term. She's not walking in on day one facing those sorts of challenges. But it is a challenging time in the country just more broadly, economically, politically, geopolitically, and societally. And, having someone who's had to make tough decisions and tough calls in an institution like this at this moment in time, it goes back to what the Prime Minister said in announcing her appointment, that institutions are the load-bearing walls of civil society. That's an important message at a time like this when expertise and institutions are under attack.
All right. So let's bring in another guest now, if we can. A fellow everyone might recognize, Jean Chrétien.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Canada's 20th Prime Minister, and a man who knows Louise Arbour very well because you appointed her to the Supreme Court of Canada.
Yes, and I'm very pleased that she has been selected to be the Governor General. She has a great international reputation and a great Canadian reputation. I had the pleasure to name her to the Supreme Court. She did not stay there very long.
No, she didn't.
No, because she was more interested into going into the international scene,
Yep.
where she made quite a mark for herself. So, she's a very competent person, and she will be a great Governor General.
You think so? What do you think makes a good Governor General?
Oh, a good person that is, it is a job that is, or an appointment that is very symbolic, so they have to represent the best values of the country, and she's coming from Montreal, if I'm not mistaken, and she moved up the ladder. As we do all in Canada, there is no old establishment families in our country. We don't have a two-class citizens. She moved it up to the top.
Yeah.
And I was very pleased, and it was a great moment for the Supreme Court, because when she was there, 5 of the 9 judges of the Supreme Court were Francophones. She was a Francophone from Ontario, and Michel Bastarache was representing the court from the Maritimes, and they were 2 of the great judges that we had at that time. So I'm pleased to see her honored by the government and by the people of Canada, and she will do a great job.
How important do you think it is, Mr. Chrétien, that she is bilingual in French and English at this moment?
But it's very symbolic.
Yes.
When we started to name Canadian Governor General, before they were all British guys, we started by Massey and followed by Léger, and we kept that tradition quite clearly since that time, and I'm happy that it is the case today.
Yeah. What do you think is the role of a Governor General right now? We've got, as you know, the separatist movement bubbling away in Alberta, an election in Quebec where there could be a referendum.
We have this problem since 1965. So I'm not surprised. It's always a problem that 65, 63, when I was elected, we had violence because of that in Montreal.
Yeah.
So it's a problem that it is with us since a long time, but it is a marginal problem in my judgment. And at this moment, when you look at the polls, the Canadians have been never more united than they are right now. I say thank you to Donald Trump for that. As you know, I said I should propose him for the order of Canada. But I cannot succeed. Do you know why?
He's not Canadian?
No.
People would be mad at you?
No, Nelson Mandela had it.
Well, that's true.
You know what? He will not qualify.
No.
Because we don't give it to a person who has a criminal record.
Right.
That's the truth. It's I deal with the truth.
But to go back to I take your point that we've dealt with these kinds of things before, but what do you think a Governor General needs to do in this moment to keep the country unified in the face of those things and of course, the President?
But she just to do her job well, and she represents the best values of Canada. She was a person that coming from Montreal and moved up the ladder. He moved in as a lawyer in Ontario, became a teacher, a judge, and I was when I named her the Supreme Court of Canada, I was applauded by everybody. And now she has been named Governor General, and she had been applauded by everybody. I did not read any criticism of her.
No, she has an incredible reputation from
That's
a legal
it. So
perspective.
it was a very good choice.
David, do you have a...
I just wonder, when you said about Alberta separatism, Mr. Chrétien, that you see it as a marginal problem, or were you speaking about Quebec at that moment? Because
But look at the polls.
But I wonder...
70% of the people of Quebec don't want to have a referendum. And in Alberta, the premier invited the people to vote to stay in Canada. So, I'm not worried.
But I wonder...
Of course, you guys, you enjoy it, but it's not my job.
But the novelty of a sitting premier who says she's a federalist and leads a federalist party, putting separatism on a ballot. We've seen it in 1980 and in 1995, but those were separatist leaders and separatist parties.
But They do that in Alberta. It's not the first time. They had a referendum before because they were not happy, because they were not receiving equalization payment. You remember?
Yeah.
But of course, they were not happy, but they can have a referendum of anything. They can have a referendum, do you believe the moon is square, and the people will vote. You know, it's just a consultation. And now I'm not too worried. I think that we have to be careful, and the people of Alberta, like the others, knows about who is the Governor General, her personality, her record, her reputation, and they feel good about it.
How would you advise Prime Minister Carney to approach this as the person who was the Prime Minister the last time there was a referendum on separatism in Canada?
But to do his job, as I did it. It's not easy, but I think we'll be all right.
And there is the Prime Minister arriving with his wife, Diana Fox Carney. You're going to go inside and...
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah, okay. I think they'll let you in.
I had to take... They will say, show us your
invitation.
I think you're okay.
Monsieur Chrétien, I'd like to have your invitation.
I think you'll get by.
Okay.
Thank you. It was nice to see you,
Thank you
sir.
very
I
much.
appreciate you making the time. That was Jean Chrétien, of course, the former Prime Minister of Canada. As we look at the current Prime Minister of Canada arriving here for the ceremony of the Governor General that he has chosen.
Yes. Yes, good to see you again.
Good morning, Mr. Frank.
Good to see you. I'm very well.
Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Happy day.
Good morning.
Beautiful day, positive day. There's a momentous occasion. It is. Outgoing Governor General did an amazing job. The new one will do justice. Oh, I'm sure. We're very optimistic and looking forward to that. He's a good person. Yeah. I think about the weather. We should have these. We have to. We had such a poor season thus far. We should just have more ceremonial events. And then we would have to give us weather like this.
I guess it's working.
All right, that is the Prime Minister of Canada there. He was speaking with some local Indigenous leaders. There's also a drummer's circle that will be there to greet the Governor General designate. That, of course, the Chief Justice of Canada, the Honourable Richard Wagner, who, as you may know, when the Governor General is not available, he will step in and do some of those duties. We saw when we were speaking to Mr. Chrétien, the Governor General designate, Louise Arbour, making her way over to the Senate now. Yep. Yes. Yeah.
An alumni of the Supreme Court being elevated and installed to this role as the Governor General. And you go back to what Adrienne Clarkson said earlier about the importance of this role in its legal and constitutional role as a check on the head of government, has to sign all the laws.
Yep.
So she's going from a role, that she served in 5 years as the arbiter of laws, the final decision-making body at the Supreme Court, where you would set precedent that would shape the legal direction and trajectory of the country, to now being the signature on the paper to write the laws, to send them into law.
Yeah.
So it has to be interesting for the judges, the justices, to sit there and watch that and see, maybe there is life after the Supreme Court, Rosie. I'm sure this is something they grapple with. What do you do next? Well, you can become Governor General based on what we're seeing today.
Not sure how many times that will happen, but sure. There will be here a military salute for the Chief Justice.
It also underscores, Rosie, I think, the opportunity you have as a Prime Minister to make a mark on the country and set the direction of important institutions for at least a 4 or 5, however many year period. Something like a Governor General appointment, they typically serve a 5-year term. term, a 5-year mandate. The Supreme Court justices serve until they're 75. Unlike the United States, we do have that mandatory retirement provision in our tenures at the Supreme Court. It's not a lifetime appointment. So you have these opportunities to shape the legal direction of the country, the constitutional order of the country. It can be a profoundly important time. It can also be a profoundly difficult time if you make a difficult, the wrong choice, as we've seen in the not too recent past, where it can become a political controversy for you. I don't think we're going to have any of that with Louise Arbour. Someone who's had all of these roles is profoundly vetted and profoundly well known and accomplished, and I think that's very much what Mark Carney was counting on, right?
And also someone who knows, when she needs to speak and when she doesn't, which is something that she obviously understood as a judge at the Supreme Court. This is Mary Simon, who is still the Governor General until the ceremony takes place, arriving now for her last official duty here as Governor General, with her husband, Whit Fraser, longtime broadcaster. The gentleman standing beside Mary Simon is the usher of the Black Rod, Greg Peters, who's been in that role for some time, and he acts as the secretary to the monarch when they are in the country. He is a gentleman who has an enormous number of fantastic stories about Queen Elizabeth and all the times that he was able to help her and work with her when she was in the country, and of course now for King Charles. This also a good moment to remind people the first Governor General appointed under King Charles, so that also makes it very significant.
And the usher of the Black Rod, Rosie, Greg Peters, he's the guy you see on the days of the speech from the throne.
That's right.
He is the messenger sent from from the Senate to the Commons, bangs on the door with the Black Rod, which is in his hand there, to invite them to come to the Senate, because that is where either the king, as we saw a year ago, or the Governor General gives a speech, because they are forbidden from entering the House of Commons, because that is the House of the Commons. And so it was a job that got a lot more difficult with the renovations on Parliament Hill, because instead of just wandering down the hall, it's now a 1.3, 1.4 kilometer trek. So they tend to hop on buses to avoid either the heat or the rain, depending on the time of the year. But people might remember him from those not more formal roles as the installation of a Governor General, but something you see with a little bit more frequency.
Yeah. And this is the Governor General designate, Louise Arbour, arriving now to begin the ceremony that will see her become the 31st Governor General of Canada. Throughout Louise Arbour's career, her illustrious career, as we've talked about, she has mentioned time and again that she's never done a job interview. That I wouldn't know anything about that, but there's some spontaneous clapping there from people. She's had people call her and offer her these incredible opportunities, and because of her dedication to public service, her commitment to the law, her desire for these new challenges, she has accepted them. It's part of the reason why she left the Supreme Court after just 5 years. She was offered another opportunity, again with the United Nations. And when I was speaking to her daughter last week, this is kind of why she's taken this job too. It wasn't necessarily that she was looking for another role at this point in her career, but she obviously couldn't say no and thought that she had something to give to the country again.
That is a remarkable testament, though, to hold these national and international and constitutional and legal offices and never really having to compete for it. I suppose your entire life is sort of your resume in real time when you're building a career like Louise Arbour. But, you know, Rosie, I remember when I got my first job at McDonald's, it took 4 interviews when I was 16, right? Like an aggressive vetting process. And, you know, to just be called up and offered something like Governor General or Supreme Court Justice, you know, you've impressed a lot of people with what you've done to that point.
Distinguished guests, elders, knowledge keepers, chiefs, grand chiefs, Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Barton, Your Excellency, the Right Honourable Retirement, and Governor General of the My name is Greg Sarrazin, Chief of the Algonquins of the Algonquin First Nation. And on behalf of the Algonquins of the Algonquin First Nation and the entire Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation, it is my honor and my privilege to welcome you to this historic occasion as we gather on the traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation to mark the installation of Canada's new Governor General. These lands have always belonged to the Algonquin Nation, and for countless generations our ancestors have cared for these lands and these waters. Their stewardship, wisdom, and connection to the natural world continues to guide us today. We honor our ancestors, our elders, and the generations yet to come as we stand here together on this land. Today marks an important moment in the life of Canada. We enter a new era with the installation of a new Governor General, representing both continuity and renewal within Canada's constitutional framework. This is a moment to reflect on the values that unite us. For First Nations peoples, leadership has always been rooted in service to our people, respect for future generations, and the understanding that decisions made today will affect those who come afterwards. Leadership is not measured by authority alone, but by humility, integrity, and a willingness to listen. These teachings have guided us and our nation since time immemorial and remain as relevant today as ever. As Canada continues its journey of reconciliation, the role of national leaders carries significant importance. Reconciliation is not a destination, but an ongoing commitment. It requires honest dialogue, mutual respect, and meaningful action. It calls upon all of us, Indigenous and non-Indigenous alike, to build relationships based on truth, understanding, and partnership. Today we celebrate not only a new Governor General, but also the opportunity to strengthen those relationships. We recognize the progress that has been made and acknowledge the work that remains ahead. As we move forward from this day, let us continue to foster understanding between nations and communities. And let us work together to ensure that future generations inherit a country that reflects the values of justice, respect, and shared responsibility. On behalf of the Algonquin Nation, I am honored to be here on this auspicious occasion to welcome you to Algonquin territory. And with respect and gratitude, we acknowledge the hard work and the positive impact of our outgoing Governor General, Harrison. And we congratulate you, Governor General Designate Louise Arbour. We wish you well as you take up your new duties, and we look forward to working with you in the coming years. Miigwech, thank you, and may the Creator always smile upon you and yours.
The ceremony will get underway shortly. The dignitaries are now going to make their way into the Senate building, where they'll be greeted by the Speaker of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Commons, and others. I kind of love that Louise Arbour kept her sunglasses on through that whole thing. I thought that made her look kind of cool. So it's the Prime Minister and the current Governor General, obviously, as the official ceremony, which is, quite detailed, has a lot of different protocols and things that have to happen, including the Great Seal that has to be transferred, the swearing-in portion of the ceremony. There'll be a speech by the Prime Minister and, of course, a speech by Madame Arbour as well. Here they're being greeted, as I said, by the Speakers of the House of Commons and the Senate, but also by national Indigenous leaders, both the head of the FN, head of the ITK, the Inuit, Taprit Kamitami, and Métis.
You saw Nathan Obed give Mary Simon a big hug there. He was quite joyful when she was appointed to this job. He's known her for a long time, worked together on a lot of shared goals, and you see him also hugging Whit Fraser quite close with the soon-to-be former Governor General and her husband, Whit Fraser, who, of course, was a CBC journalist, worked in the North, covered a lot of these issues. He's quite a fun
character,
guy, informal sort of resident of Rideau Hall. But that was a nice little moment there, because remember how joyful he was on the day she was appointed, and then giving her an embrace on the day she leaves.
And as I said, you will see all sorts of nods to reconciliation throughout this ceremony as well. I think important that Madame Arbour also feels that this is an important job, if you will, or part of the role of the Governor General. Certainly it's something that Mary Simon was hoping that she would continue that work on for the country. So they're just going to go back into that little room now until they come down through the hallway in the Senate, and the ceremony will get underway in about 10 minutes' time or so. Let's go to Janice McGregor now. She is just outside the building, the Senate building there, where she had good front row seats to those events. Anyway, Janice, reconciliation is so important to the Governor General now, but I think also just part of what we would expect the Governor General to do, any Governor General to do moving forward, as part of what this country is continuing to work on.
Yeah, I want to share just a couple of things I noticed from my very privileged front row seat to what we just saw. First, when Louise Arbour got out of her car, there was a bit of a crowd in front of the Chateau Laurier, and there was a spontaneous round of applause, which I thought was quite powerful, actually, as she arrives for her installation. And then during the drumming and the dancing ceremony, which was spectacular, it was just a few meters behind me here, I noticed one of the representatives of the local First Nation putting a feather in the air. And I could see Mary Simon standing beside Louise Arbour, watching this kind of powerful moment on their way in. And it really brought to mind something Mary Simon told our colleague Catherine Cullen on CBC Radio's The House this past weekend, about how Mary Simon always saw her role as an Indigenous Governor General as one of bridging between, the Canadians on the other side of the street, if you will, and Indigenous peoples who have a direct and special relationship with the Crown that has duties and responsibilities to uphold their rights. And how that all kind of comes together today, what we hear from Arbour about how she will bridge between her predecessor and her term, I think is one of the most interesting things about this ceremony today.
Thank you for that, Janice.
I now entrust you with the Great Seal of Canada of Queen Elizabeth II for decommissioning.
This is the decommissioning of the Great Seal of Canada, and this is actually a very important instrument of government, because it is the tool that, not this exact tool, but makes the imprint on important documents, on legislation, on royal proclamations. And of course, it is a new seal now because it is King Charles.
Le nouveau Grand Sceau du Canada, approuvé par Sa Majesté le Roi Charles III, au représentant du Registraire général du Canada. I did.
Je vous confie le garde du Grand Sceau du Canada.
I entrust
I
you
entrust you
with the Great Seal of
safekeeping
Canada.
the Great Seal of Canada.
You heard Mary Simon speak a little bit of French there because she was continuing her French lessons right up until the end, she told me. This is the Government of Canada's Golden Book that I guess both of them will get a chance to sign.
There is this intricate ballet
Yes.
of formality and tradition in these moments that are so detailed, Rosie, and so precise. And, there's a whole apparatus built up to preserve it and make sure it functions. When you're not of that world or immersed in that world, as Whit Fraser was looking around like, where do you want me? What do I do?
Yeah.
It's a language unto itself. But it's all part of the, that going back to that load-bearing walls comment the Prime Minister made about institutions and civil societies. It's the various struts and posts that go together to cement those walls together. That creates a legal framework around the legitimacy of it all.
Well, and I think more important now than ever to see these moments, at a time when Canadians are, I'm not going to say rediscovering patriotism, but perhaps, leaning into their patriotism in a different way to understand these ceremonies and protocols that are what make Canada, Canada. I think is pretty significant in this moment.
Well, it reinforces the importance of a lot of things that maybe people take for granted in normal times.
That's right. That's right.
As we race towards the midterms in the United States in November, I'm always reminded of how much we take Elections Canada for granted, for example, on how smooth and clean elections tend to run here. And I go back to what Adrienne Clarkson said about the importance of a role like the Governor General when you look at, when she said the people we live to the north of, I believe was the phrase. I don't think she's talking about the French islands of Saint Pierre and Miquelon off the coast of my beloved Newfoundland. But just this check on the head of government that exists in the form of the Governor General. And of course the Supreme Court and the way it is adhered to and respected here. And just how it calibrates the ambitions of a government and puts some limits on it, even as it seeks to be ambitious in defining the future direction of the nation. So it is an important role beyond the symbolism, because it is sort of that guardian against going too far.
Well, and I think just seeing the direct example of a constitutional monarchy is an important contrast point with our neighbors to the south right now. And a good reminder of all the ways that we are different as we try to figure out what that relationship is and what it's going to be moving forward.
Curious on the point you raised earlier, though, Rosie, about Mary Simon hoping to see Louise Arbour continue her work on reconciliation. I was looking at, obviously, when you are a Supreme Court judge, and certainly in the last quarter century, there have been so many critical cases that make its way to the top court. And sort of bookending her career just before and just after she was a Supreme Court judge, we had the Delgamuukw decision, which sort of established Aboriginal title as a distinct property right. That was just before Louise Arbour was appointed to the court, so something obviously she would have been immersed in and aware of as it became a key legal decision in the country's history. And just months after she left to take the job at the United Nations, that's when the Haida decision came in that Adrienne Clarkson was speaking about earlier. And this is what established the Crown's duty to consult with Indigenous people. So while the decision came down, she left the court in June of 2004. This decision came down in November of 2004. It would have been working its way through the courts at a time, obviously, when she was at the very top of it. And certainly that's, as we're seeing with Alberta, as we're seeing with major projects, this is a decision with resonance in the everyday conversation now of how do you achieve your economic ambitions, your political ambitions in Canada, while adhering to this key decision that came just a few months after she left her legal career behind.
This, of course, the foyer of the Senate building, the Senate of Canada. It was, for those of you who don't know, an old train station for a long time, and then sat empty, frankly, and didn't have much happening in it. And then it was renovated in order to house the Senate while the renovation of Centre Block happens. A beautiful, beautiful building. Although the Senate chamber itself, as you'll see, quite tight, so there won't be that many people in there, though there are sort of seats above on both sides of it, and you can see there some of the pages and other people who work in the Senate lining the balcony to try and get a view of the procession, the official procession, when it arrives and comes down this foyer to go into the chamber and begin the official ceremony. You're going to see in the ceremony, though, speaking about reconciliation, the appearance of the Quillig again, which is something that was there for Mary Simon's installation, the Inuit light that is very symbolic to the Inuit. It was there for Mary Simon. It's making another appearance here for the installation of Louise Arbour.
It's amazing to look at the architecture of this building, Rosie, and think that it's sat empty. I mean, look at this. You know, and this is one of the stories of official Ottawa. We saw the Supreme Court judges arriving, and the Supreme Court is undergoing a renovation now, and the judges have moved out to a temporary court. And, you know, there are 9 judges obviously on the Supreme Court, and with renovations being what they are, and with the age limit of 75 existing, maybe only 1 or 2 of the current judges will still be on the court when they return to that building. Wow. Yeah, Michelle Obonsawin and Mahmoud Jamal. I think they're the 2 judges who are guaranteed to still have time left, unless they go off to work at the United Nations and become Governor General and follow in the footsteps of Louise Arbour. But this is sort of the story of official Ottawa right now, is that everything is under renovation and in a temporary capacity. While the Centre Block is being rebuilt, the Supreme Court is being rebuilt. You know, the House of Commons and the Senate are temporary situations right now. Well, which is, I guess, fitting for a democracy, as everything is temporary, except the institutions themselves, the physical space, the inhabitants of the space, and the names that we associate with those particular jobs.
As I said, we are going to hear from the Prime Minister, who will undoubtedly talk again about why he chose Madame Arbour, but may also speak to some of the challenges and the context that we've been talking about through the morning. And while we heard from Madame Arbour when she was chosen at that press conference with the Prime Minister, we haven't heard a speech from her in this role and capacity before. So it'll be interesting, I think, to see how she introduces herself to Canadians, because not everybody knows her as well as some people in this town might, and to see the kinds of things that she wants to highlight for Canadians.
Well, normally when we hear the Governor General speak, it is a speech from the throne, right, in a formal capacity.
The government's language.
The government has written 90% of that, and normally the Governor General, they have the liberty and the freedom to put their own opening on it, right? Sort of their own introduction. Something like this, though, would obviously be a far more personal and self-directed, a public missive, right? And a chance, I guess, put some contours around what she hopes to do. And it is interesting because, you know, as a Supreme Court judges, you get their judgments in written form, very formal and structured and clear with precedent and explaining what they do. Obviously, her work as a prosecutor and as working with migrants and on immigration issues, personal and pointed, and some advocacy work certainly in that second role. How she balances that in this is going to be an interesting and maybe revealing moment.
Yeah, because she can't really go too far over that line, to your point, into becoming an advocate. Though, you know, I would expect she would still talk about human rights, the importance perhaps of the law in terms of how it drove her career and her sense of self and who she is. She's also someone who I watched a number of interviews with her, and she grew up in Montreal and went to an all-girls school until I think she was about 19 or 20, and then faced a lot of challenges when she had to leave Quebec and come to an Anglophone province like Ontario and move into a world, the legal world, where frankly there weren't a lot of women. So she had to sort of acclimatize herself to that reality as well. and then took on, as we've been talking about, challenge after challenge after challenge, driven by really very much her belief that the law should be the most important driver of how people are treated fairly in this country and around the world. And you know, she's done some really fearless work on that front, and for that reason is an impressive person, and I think Canadians will start to get a sense of that if they don't know already. Ashley Burke is in that beautiful building at the red carpet waiting for the procession and is allowed to talk until they at least come down, Ashley.
Yeah, and up to my left, there's Senate pages that are kind of hanging over the railing, hoping to catch a glimpse of them walk by behind us shortly. And the chamber is filled with dignitaries from former prime ministers and former governor generals to ambassadors, MPs of all sorts. Everyone we've talked to so far really reflecting on Madame Arbour's lengthy career that spanned decades, her international work, what she's done here in Canada, and really the message that sends at home and abroad. We also spoke to Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen, who's here wearing this blue NASA bomb over top of his suit. And he was reflecting on what he wants to hear from her today in her speech when it comes to her mandate. He just made history being one of the first humans to travel that far into deep space. And he said he's always thinking about what's next, that we've never hit the pinnacle. It's always what's coming up and what can we push forward to. And so he said that he's going to be interested in seeing how she describes her mandate and what she's really thinking and focusing on right now, Rosie.
Okay, Ashley, thank you. Perfect timing. The procession is starting to arrive there behind where Ashley is. That, of course, the usher of the Black Rod is leading them all in. You know, we are hoping we'll get a sense of the mandate of the Governor General designate in her speech, but we may not. There are some governors general who take a bit of time to sort of sort out the areas and issues that they want to focus on, who might, you know, go and travel the country and hear from Canadians a little bit in order to help them frame that. So at very least, it'll give Canadians a sense of who Madame Arbour is, and we'll see whether she fleshes out at all what she wants to accomplish over the next 4 or 5 years. And of course, events drive what a Governor General does as well. Mary Simon, you know, a lot of her time in office was during the pandemic, and so it was a different period of time for her for a portion of it. Limited travel, harder to connect with Canadians through some of it, and that was a different kind of challenge for her as well.
But that whole point of institutional stability, and Rosie, what you said there about Louise Arbour and her views on the law, and you know, it is the great equalizer, right? And if you look at the moments in her career after her time on the Supreme Court, prosecuting the powerful and the wicked in Slobodan Milosevic, and then advocating for the most powerless in her work with migrants, you know, speaking to sort of the dignity of each human and their right to be treated with fairness and equality, you know, under systems. You know, it sort of punctuates that whole thing, and I suspect you might be onto something there that could be very much a thing we see talked about and highlighted here, because it's central to a constitutional monarchy like Canada, and just the very ceremony that we see on display. This is a legal process. This is a legal event, not just a made-for-TV moment. It's part of the constitutional order and the guardianship of democracy.
Veuillez vous asseoir. Please be seated. Dans un moment, la gouverneure générale désignée, l'honorable Louise Arbour,
the Governor General designate Louise Arbour will enter the Senate chamber, and she will be accompanied by General Jenny Carignan, Chief of the Defense Staff, Mr. Brian Larkin, Senior Deputy Commissioner of the Royal of the RCMP, and Secretary General.
L'huissier du bâton noir. La procession se déroulera au sein d'accompagnements musicaux.
The procession will be accompanied by a musical performance by Canadian artists.
Je vous invite à vous lever, si vous le pouvez, pour la procession.
Please rise if you are
I invite you
able
to rise if
for
you're
the
able
procession.
for the procession.
Just to let you know that American Sign Language interpretation is available for this ceremony today. It is streaming on CBCNews.ca, CBC Gem, the CBC News app. We are going to listen in to the ceremony. You'll see moments that have been particularly chosen by Madame Arbour, songs particularly chosen that will tell you a little bit about who she is, and we will dip in when needed to guide you through parts of the ceremony. But for now, let's listen live as we see Canada's 31st Governor-General be formally sworn in, and the 30th Governor-General, Mary Simon, take her leave. There you go, Madame Arbour now inside the Red Chamber as the ceremony gets underway.
Veuillez vous s'asseoir. Please be seated. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, who have been present on these lands since time immemorial.
Forte d'une formation et d'une expérience professionnelle dans le domaine bancaire et immobilier, l'aînée McGregor
Founding
a
herself
contribué
on
à de
her
nombreux
professional
organismes favorisant le développement économique
past,
autochtone
she
et
has
la
been
lutte contre la
very
violence familiale.
instrumental in promoting
L'aînée McGregor fait la promotion de la langue et
development
de la
of the
culture
indigenous peoples
algonquine
and fighting
comme présidente de
domestic
l'Institut
violence.
culturel algonquin
She is also
et
the
comme membre
president
d'un
of the
groupe de grand-mères
Algonquin Cultural
traditionnelles
Council.
et d'aînés. Welcome, Elder McGregor.
Kakina. Hello, everybody. Bonjour à toutes et tous. I'm very honored to be here today, and I'd like to honor our honored guests and our the future Governor, Her Excellencies, and the past Excellencies. As Algonquin, we're known as the Omamaninwak, the nomads, and we would meet here in the summer because this area here is so special. That we're known for the birch bark canoe. Why we would meet here is at this confluence of the rivers coming together. And it's similar to, if you've been in a lot of our communities, the medicine wheel, where there's many teachings to that, but the biggest meaning is that it represents balance, even individually, your emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental. But it's a reminder too that what connects all of us is that we're connected to the earth, the waters, the fire, and the air. And what I did today too as well is our ancestors were one of the first to meet the newcomers, most notably Samuel de Champlain. And this led to a conflict in the past called the Beaver Wars, which led to this great peace gathering in 1701. And from there they created one of the symbols which we see as covenants, which is this sharing belt of 1701. And it represents the three nations, really, which you had the British Crown, the Anishinaabe in the middle, and the French Crown. So again, it was our understanding it's the sharing of the lands and the caretaking of the lands for future generations too. But they're also called peace belts in terms of how do you weave together different ideologies so we coexist together without destroying each other. And that's the significance of these, and that's why I'm very honored to be here today. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say a little prayer. Part of our protocol too is the offering of tobacco. And again, that was one of our sacred medicines in the medicine wheel. And I may ask you to stand if you can. Nani buene nabegis, s'il vous plaît, enlevez. I also have my eagle feather, and again, too, the significance of the eagle feather is that it has a higher view, such as leadership. You need a higher view. God ni ganich kakina. So mi gwach. On jeni gashkito chama on dose konche non go mama kakina pamad subject in Israel konche. Mom de gay, we ni gan with chikena bigis. We do ka kakina chmino pamad watch chimnayak. Juana kiwa jena bigis. Mi gwach on je kakina gagish and on je mom de gay in the kimanon. Shkaki question kason in the kimanon. We do ka kakina pamad subject on je nagadwabdan kakina gujna in the kimanon. Mom de gay nishna beaki. Mi gwach on je kakina etek kishagon kizes to be kizes a shajanang shak. We do kwayan no kumis nano je nagdwabdan kakina guj nebi a shich nimashomsen nano je nagdwabdan kakina gujya ishkude. Mi gwach on je nasewen kagimi jen chimino pamadsian. We do kwa kakina chipino pamadzwaj mom de gegi akwazajik. We do kwa mom de ge ninjinu in daganag nimashomsen non negokmis non a shich nedabano jishak. Mom de ge nebashka dagamak kamashe denizwak. Shwenmish non in abigis. We do kwa kakina wesi saka gishandan kakina guj ashij we do kwa kakina mom de ge we wisna jik demagas jik akwas jik kaye we mi god would jik nongom chuana kiwaj en abigis kanche squat negwede simene mi gwach Miigwachis, thank you in Algonquin. Say merci en Algonquin. J'ai dit ça 4 fois. I say it 4 times again to honor the place we're here today, because I find it interesting that Parliament and the leadership, the Senate, is at that confluence of the 4 rivers coming together from the 4 directions, representing that it's a big responsibility to bring in balance for the collective. So, miigwech everybody, merci à tous, and have a wonderful gathering, and congratulations to the future Governor General. Miigwech. Oh, Namada Ben, you may be seated. Asseyez-vous.
Thank you, Elder McGregor, for your wise words. I would now like to take a moment to explain a tradition that was carried out before the ceremony began, the lighting of the kudlik, the traditional Inuit lamp. Made of soapstone, the kudlik burns animal fat and uses Arctic plants as a wick. These lamps are traditionally used in the north to bring light and warmth to homes. Elder Ripa Ivik Carlton is here with us today to tend the kudlik for the duration of the ceremony. She has dedicated decades of her life to supporting community social work in Nunavut, as well as founding a healing center here in Ottawa, which provides a variety of Inuit community support programs. Elder Ivik Carlton, thank you for joining us today.
L'auteur-interprète québécoise Sarah Dufour,
Quebec artist Sarah Dufour, accompanied on the guitar by Paul Théoré, will now interpret La Reine by Jean-François Posé. This song tells the story of a woman who devotes her life to the service of others in spite of her own challenges, and highlights themes such as solidarity, resilience, and empathy. Please welcome Sarah Dufour.
On n'avait jamais su de quel pays qu'elle venait, ni même l'âge qu'elle avait ou comment qu'elle s'appelait. Mais tout le monde la surnommait la reine, dans le bout de la rue Sainte-Catherine et de la Maine. Elle se promenait dans le quartier depuis au moins 10 ans, côtoyant les putains et les itinérants. Mais quand on entendait son accent, on se doutait qu'elle venait pas du lac Saint-Jean. Chaque soir, elle prenait sous son aile les clochards et les junkies de fond de ruelle, comme un ange gardien venu du ciel qui serait atterri dans les poubelles. La nuit avec son pick-up, elle faisait sa tournée, distribuant des toasts et un peu de café. café pour donner un petit brin de chaleur à ceux qui ont l'hiver drette dans le cœur. Pour les écorchés vifs, elle inspirait la paix. Sa seule présence était comme un baume sur leur plaie. Son regard était une lanterne pour les naufragés des sombres tavernes. Chaque soir, elle prenait sous son aile les clochards et les junkies de fond de ruelle, comme un ange gardien venu du ciel qui serait atterri dans les poubelles. Selon ce que dit Polo, un chauffeur de taxi, elle aurait fui la guerre pour émigrer ici. Il y a de cela une couple de décennies, quand ils ont tué son petit gars puis son mari. Et ce qu'elle aurait trouvé pour s'accrocher à vie, c'est de s'occuper des pauvres et des plus démunis. Au lieu de vivre triste éternellement, elle avait maintenant des centaines d'enfants. Chaque soir, elle prenait sous son aile les clochards et les junkies de fond de ruelle, comme un ange gardien venu du ciel qui serait atterri dans les poubelles. Ça s'est passé hier dans la nuit du 12 au 13. En sortant de son pick-up, a eu comme un malaise. Près de chez elle, au métro du collège, on l'a retrouvée morte dans un banc de neige. On n'aura jamais su de quel pays qu'elle venait, ni même l'âge qu'elle avait ou comment qu'elle s'appelait. Mais ce matin, les gens pleuraient la reine par le bout de la rue Sainte-Catherine et de la Main. Mais au moins, elle a repris ses ailes pour partir vers un monde un peu moins cruel. Et même si elle croyait pas en Dieu, c'est sûr qu'elle vole quelque part où le ciel est bleu. Et même si elle croyait pas en Dieu, c'est sûr qu'elle vole quelque part où le ciel est bleu.
The position of Governor General has greatly evolved since the Confederation of Canada in 1867. King George VI, in 1947, signed letters patent which redefines the powers of the Governor General. Since that time, the Governor General has duly performed the duties of head of state, not only in Canada, but also abroad. These letters patent also conferred upon the Governor General the role of Commander-in-Chief of Canada. The letters patent require that the commission of this office be read publicly during the swearing-in of a new Governor General.
J'aimerais maintenant inviter le secrétaire du gouverneur général.
I now invite the Secretary to the Governor General, Mr. Ken McKillop, to read the commission signed by His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada.
Charles III, par la grâce de Dieu.
Charles III, by the grace of God of the United Kingdom, Canada, and his other realms and territories, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, to our right trustee and well-beloved Louise Arbour, greeting. We do, by our commission under our Great Seal of Canada, appoint you, Louise Arbour, to be, during our pleasure, our Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief in and over Canada, with all the powers, rights, privileges, and advantages belonging or appertaining to the office. And we do hereby authorize, empower, and command you to exercise and perform all and singular powers and directions contained in certain letters patent under our Great Seal of Canada, bearing date the 8th day of September 1947, constituting the said office of the Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief in and over Canada and in any other letters patent, adding to, amending, or substituted for the same. And further, we do hereby appoint that, so soon as you shall have taken the prescribed oaths and have entered upon the duties of your office, this our present commission shall come into effect. And we do hereby command all and singular, our officers and loving subjects of Canada, all others whom it may concern, to take due notice hereof, and to give their ready obedience accordingly. Given under our royal hand and the Great Seal of Canada, this second day of June in the year of the Lord 2026, in the year of our reign.
Charles III, by the grace of God, King of Canada and his other realms and territories, head of the Commonwealth, to our trusty and well-beloved Louise Arbour. Greetings. We do by this our present commission under our Great Seal of Canada appoint you, Louise Arbour, to be, during our pleasure, our Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief, and over Canada with all the powers, rights, privileges, and advantages belonging and appertaining to the office. And we do hereby authorize, empower, and command you, as our representative, to exercise and perform all, singular, the powers and directions contained in certain letters patent under our Great Seal of Canada, bearing the date 8th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1947, constituting the office of the Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief in and over Canada, or in any other letters patent, adding to, amending, or substituting for the same. And further, we do hereby appoint that so soon as you shall have taken the prescribed oaths and have entered upon the duties of your office, this our present commission shall come into effect. And we do hereby command all and singular our officers, ministers, and loving subjects of Canada, and all others whom these patents may concern, to take due notice hereof, and to give their ready obedience accordingly. Given under our royal hand and under the Great Seal of Canada, this second day of June in the year of our Lord 2026, and in the 4th year of our reign.
The commission just read is the cornerstone of today's ceremony. This document, commissioning the Honourable Louise Arbour, signals the King's confidence and our collective pride in her appointment to the office of Governor-General and her ability to carry out this solemn duty. The Right Honourable Richard Wagner, Chief Justice of Canada, will now administer the required oaths.
La prestation des serments doit avoir lieu en présence
Oaths
des
must
membres
be
du Conseil privé
administered
du
in
roi
the
pour le
presence of
Canada.
members of the King's
Monsieur
Privy
Michael
Council for
Sabia,
Canada.
greffier du
Mr.
Conseil
Michael
privé,
Sabia,
remettra maintenant
Clerk of the
le
Privy
texte des
Council,
serments au juge
will
en chef
now
du
present
Canada.
the oaths to the Chief Justice of Canada.
Vous, Louise Arbour,
Do you,
affirmez-vous
Louise
solennellement
Arbour,
que vous serez fidèle
swear that you will be
porterez
faithful
sincère allégeance
and bear
à Sa
true
Majesté le
allegiance
Roi Charles
to His
III,
Majesty King Charles
Roi du
III,
Canada,
King of
à
Canada,
ses héritiers et
his
successeurs?
heirs and
Oui, je
successors?
l'affirme solennellement.
Do
I
you,
do.
Louise Arbour, solemnly affirm that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors?
I do.
Affirmez-vous solennellement que vous servirez
Do you
fidèlement
swear that you
et
will well
loyalement
and truly serve
Sa Majesté
His
le Roi
Majesty
Charles III,
King
en
Charles
qualité de
III
gouverneur
in the
général
office of
et
Governor-General
commandant
and
en chef
Commander-in-Chief
Canada,
of
et
Canada,
administrerez
and
la justice
duty
de
and
façon
impartially
convenable
administer
et
justice
impartiale?
therein?
Oui, je l'affirme solennellement.
Do you solemnly
do.
affirm that you will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III in the office of Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of Canada, and duly and impartially administer justice therein?
I do.
Affirmez-vous solennellement
Do
que
you
vous
swear
servirez
that you
fidèlement et
well
loyalement
and truly serve
Sa
His
Majesté
Majesty
le Roi
King
Charles
Charles
III
III
en qualité de garde
in the
du Grand
office
Sceau
of the
du Canada?
Keeper of the Great
Je
Seal of
l'affirme
Canada?
solennellement.
I
Do you
do.
solemnly affirm that you will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III in the office of Keeper of the Great Seal of Canada?
I do.
La gouverneure ainsi que le juge en chef, le Premier ministre et le
Governor
greffier du
General, the
Conseil
Chief
privé
Justice, the Prime Minister, and the
procéderont
Clerk
maintenant à
of
la
the
signature
Privy
du registre
Council
des serments.
will now sign the oath
The
registry.
signed oaths will be kept in the Privy Council Oath Registry as evidence that the new Governor General has duly taken the oath of allegiance and the oath of office on this day of June 8th, 2026. So, honored guests, Canadians across the country, it is my honor to present the Governor General of Canada, Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour. Son Excellence, la très honorable Louise Arbour. Veuillez vous lever, please rise. Veuillez vous s'asseoir, please be seated. In honor of today's occasion, Parliamentary Poet Laureate Chimwemwe Undi, a poet, lawyer, and editor from Winnipeg, Manitoba, wrote the poem Reasons, a piece that reflects on notions of identity, empathy, and human connection. Ms. Undi will recite her piece in English and is joined by Kobe Jean from École élémentaire publique Louise Arbour in Ottawa, who will read the French translation Raison. Please give a warm welcome to our poets.
reasons. When it reaches for a country, the mind instead summons an illustration, perhaps a width of sky. This thinking an effort to transpose the abstract into a certainty to love. Modern transposition demands a sense of the world as a handshake deal, in which each hand took to the feel of the other hand's palm. Giving takes an understanding of the world as little more than that choice to hold on, to raise a reconstructed past under light and see each edge as an invitation. This way, easier to teach than travel, calls us to speak, to echo the silenced, to listen first, to understand, certain only that our good fortune is luck, not reward, a debt discharged with brief, erratic tender, life spent making this place mean something we are proud to signify.
Raison. Quand il aspire à un pays, l'esprit invoque plutôt une image, peut-être une portion de ciel se travaille, un effort destiné à convertir l'abstrait en garantie d'amour. La transposition moderne exige un accord convenu par une poignée de main où une paume s'est familiarisée avec l'autre. Pour donner, il faut comprendre le monde comme guère plus de ce choix de tenir, mettre un passé reconstruit sous la lumière et voir dans chaque suture une invitation. Plus facile à enseigner qu'à répondre, cette idée nous pousse à parler pour se réduire au silence, à écouter pour comprendre, certain seulement que notre sort tient du hasard et non du mérite. Une dette acquittée par une monnaie brève et inégale. Une vie passée à donner à ce lieu un sens que nous sommes fiers de porter.
Merci, Chimwemwe Kobi. On behalf of His Majesty the King, the Governor General presents national honors and awards that recognize those people who have demonstrated excellence, courage, or exceptional dedication to service in ways that bring special credit to this country. The majority of Canadian honors are administered by the Chancellery of Honors, which is part of the Office of the Secretary of the Governor General. A newly installed Governor General becomes Chancellor of the Order of Canada, the Order of Military Merit, the Order of Merit of the Police Forces, and head of the Canadian Heraldic Authority.
J'invite maintenant le brigadier
I now
général
invite
retraité Marc Thériault,
Brigadier General retired Marc
secrétaire des distinctions
Thériault,
honorifiques, et Monsieur
Deputy
Sami
Secretary
Khalid,
of
Héros d'Armes
Honors,
du Canada, a présenté à la
to
gouverneure
present to the Governor General
colliers d'office
the
aux ordres
collars of
nationaux et à l'autorité
office
heraldique
associated
du
with
Canada.
national warriors and the Heraldic Authority of Canada.
Le collier de chancelière de l'Ordre du Canada.
The collar of Chancellery of Canada.
Le collier de chancelière de l'Ordre du Mérite militaire.
The collar of Chancellor of Order of Military Merit.
Le collier de chancelière de l'Ordre du Mérite des corps policiers.
The collar of Order of Merit of the Police Forces.
Et finalement, le collier de chef de
And
l'autorité heraldique
finally,
du Canada.
the collar of head of the Canadian Heraldic Authority.
I'm honored to accept these collars. Je suis très honorée d'accepter ces colliers.
The Great Seal of Canada is a symbol used on the most important state documents representing authority and authenticity. Used on proclamations and commissions, it provides the formal sanction of the Crown to these documents.
Le Grand Sceau du Canada existe depuis la
The Great
Confédération.
Seal has existed since Confederation. Historically, it was replaced every time a new monarch acceded to the throne. The current Great Seal was designed by the Heraldic Authority of Canada following the accession of Charles III to the throne. This seal includes the image of the Canadian Royal Crown. Marking a new tradition for Canada, this image will henceforth remain unchanged and will serve for all future monarchs. The wording inscribed on the seal will identify the name and title of the sovereign in French and English. I now invite the Honourable David McGuinty, acting on behalf of the Honourable Mélanie Joly, Register General of Canada, to present to the Governor-General the new Great Seal of Canada. Minister McGuinty is accompanied by the Deputy Registrar, Mr. Philip Jennings.
Je vous confie la garde du Grand Sceau du Canada.
I entrust you with the Great Seal of Canada for safekeeping.
British Columbia multi-platinum artist Tyler Shaw will now perform Like Me and You, written by Rafi Kavukian and Debbie Joan Pike. This song playfully highlights themes of connection, empathy, and the universal bonds that tie us all together. Please welcome Tyler Shaw.
Janet lives in England, Pierre lives in France, Bonnie lives in Canada, Ahmed lives in Egypt, Moshe lives in Israel, Bruce lives in Australia. Ching lives in China, Olga lives in Russia, Ingrid lives in Germany, Gita lives in India, Pablo lives in Spain, Jose lives in Colombia. And each one is much like another, a child of a mother and father, a very special son or daughter, a lot like me and you. Koji lives in Japan, Nina lives in Chile, Farida lives in Pakistan, Sasha lives in Poland, Manuel lives in Brazil, Maria lives in Italy. Kofi lives in Ghana, Raheem lives in Iran. Rosa lives in Paraguay. Nija lives in Kenya. Dimitri lives in Greece. Sue lives in America. And each one is much like another, a child of a mother and father, a very special son or daughter, a lot like me and you, a lot like me and you.
Distingués invités, il me fait maintenant plaisir d'inviter
Distinguished guests, it is now my pleasure to invite the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Mark Carney, to make his address.
Son Excellence, la très honorable Louise
Her
Arbour.
Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise
La très
Arbour,
honorable Mary
the
Simon.
Right Honourable Mary Simon,
Monsieur Whit Fraser.
Mr. Whit
Le très
Fraser,
honorable
the
Richard
Right
Wagner,
Honourable Richard
Juge en chef
Wagner,
du Canada.
Chief Justice of Canada,
Ancien gouverneur général.
former Governors General,
Ancien Premier ministre.
former Prime
Dirigeants
Ministers,
autochtones.
Indigenous
Distingués
leaders,
invités.
and distinguished guests.
As Elder Verna McGregor just reminded us, this place holds history. As part of the traditional unceded territories of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples through time immemorial. As the start of the Rideau Canal, which transformed commerce during the 19th century. As the place where Canadian soldiers embarked for the battlefields of World War I, including Vimy Ridge, where many felt that Canada first became an independent nation. As the train station, where Sir Winston Churchill arrived to rally Allied support when the outcome of the Second World War hung in the balance. As the building where Canada's first ministers gathered for negotiations that led to the repatriation of our Constitution, the establishment of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the enshrinement of Indigenous rights within it. Des chapitres importants de l'histoire du Canada se sont écrits
Important
ici.
chapters of the history of
Des
Canada were
moments
written here.
marqués par le sacrifice et le leadership.
Moments marked by
Des
sacrifice and
moments
leadership.
qui ont contribué à bâtir notre
Moments
nation.
that contributed to building our
Aujourd'hui,
nation.
En
Today,
tant que siège du Sénat du Canada, cet
as the seat of the
édifice est
Senate
le
of
lieu
Canada,
où sont
this
débattus,
building is the place
peaufinés,
where
examinés
decisions
avec soin les décisions qui
are debated,
façonneront les prochains
refined, and
chapitres
reviewed.
de l'histoire de notre pays.
Decisions that will shape the next chapters
Throughout
of this
Canada's
country's
history,
history.
Whenever the world's fortunes were threatened, Canadians have chosen to step up and assert ourselves as a sovereign, ambitious, and compassionate nation. We are once again living through one of those hinge moments of history, which is why, a year ago, His Majesty King Charles came here to open Parliament, which is why respect for our institutions is vital, which is why we are each called to share each other's perspectives and work for our common good. Le comté d'aujourd'hui, Sa Majesté
Starting today,
aura une nouvelle
His Majesty will have a new representative in
Les
Canada.
Canadiens et les Canadiens, quant à eux,
As for Canadians,
auront une nouvelle commandante en
they will
chef
have a new
et une
commander-in-chief
nouvelle gardienne de
and
l'ordre
a new
constitutionnel.
guardian of the constitutional order.
Aujourd'hui, la très
Today,
honorable Louise Arbour
the Right Honourable
devient
Louise Arbour
la 31e gouverneur général du Canada.
becomes the 31st Governor General of Canada.
La couronne est le
The
fil
crown
conducteur de notre
is
vie
the common
constitutionnelle.
thread of our constitutional life.
Comme Sa Majesté l'a
As
affirmé
His
lui-même
Majesty
dans cette enceinte,
himself affirmed,
elle symbolise
in
fièrement
this
le
very
Canada
place,
aujourd'hui
it
dans
proudly
toute sa
symbolizes the
richesse
Canada of
et son
today
dynamisme.
in all its richness and
The
dynamism.
Governor General is the guardian of our constitutional order, a symbol of unity, and above all, a steward of our commitment to peace, order, and good government. Canadians entrust the Governor General to defend our institutions, to uphold our core values of liberty, fairness, solidarity, and sustainability, to represent our ambition to build a stronger, fairer country for all. These duties call for sound judgment, deep learning, and an unwavering commitment to the rule of law, the very principles on which our new Governor General, Her Excellency Louise Arbour, has built her exceptional career. Son Excellence a occupé les plus hautes fonctions
Her
au sein du
Excellency
système judiciaire canadien,
has
y
held the
compris
highest offices
à la
in our
Cour suprême
Canadian
du Canada.
judicial system, including
Pourtant,
at the Supreme
son
Court of
héritage
Canada.
ne se limite pas au travail
Yet her
qu'elle a
legacy
accompli
is
au
not
sein de
confined
la
to the
magistrature.
work that she carried out within the
Certaines de
judiciary.
ses réalisations les plus
Some
marquantes
of her
en
most
tant que
significant
juriste
accomplishments
se sont
as a
déroulées
jurist
en dehors des salles
unfolded
d'audience du
outside
Canada.
of Canada's
En tant
courts.
que haute commissaire, elle a
As High
exalté
Commissioner,
le système des droits de la
she
personne
urged
des
the
Nations Unies
United Nations
à
human
se
rights
montrer
system
digne des
to prove
personnes
itself
qui
worthy
prétendaient servir.
of those that it claimed to
Elle a
serve.
donné une voix à ceux dont la
She
dignité
gave a voice
était bafouée.
to those whose
Là
dignity had been
où les
violated
personnes au pouvoir préféraient
in a
le
place
silence.
where persons in power preferred silence.
At every stage of her distinguished career, Her Excellency Louise Arbour has defended and promoted justice, dignity, and equality. In The Hague, where her work held the most powerful to account. At the United Nations, when she defended the most vulnerable. In Canada, where across academia, in our highest courts, and in public service, she upheld justice for all. Depuis plus de 50 ans, dans toutes
For
les
more than 50
fonctions
years,
qu'elle a occupées, la très
in all
honorable
the
Louise Arbour a
offices
toujours
she has
été
held,
animée
the
par la
Right
même
Honourable
conviction.
Louise Arbour has always been driven by the same conviction.
Pour qu'une société
The conviction
soit libre,
that
les institutions
in order for a
de cette
society to be
dernière doivent
free,
être tenues
its
de rendre
institutions must be held to
que
account.
ce sont les lois qui font le rempart
That
entre les
laws
plus puissants
are the
et les
rampart
plus démunis.
between the powerful and the
Que la
disadvantaged.
dignité de chaque être humain ne
That
doit
the
pas
dignity
dépendre de
of
facteurs
every human
aléatoires
being
tels que
must
la
not
situation
depend on
géographique,
random
la
factors
citoyenneté
such as where you live,
ou des
your
considérations
citizenship,
de commodité.
or expediency.
Et que le rôle du Canada dans ce monde
And that
est de
Canada's
mettre
role
ces
in this
principes en
world
pratique
is to
et
put these
d'aider
principles into
les autres
practice
pays à
and
faire
help
de même.
other countries to do the same.
The Governor General is the steward of the values we cherish, of the democracy that we celebrate, of the Constitution that protects our freedoms and the institutions that promote them. In fulfilling these tasks, Her Excellency will represent the best of Canada to Canadians and to the world. A Canada that is a bastion of justice, security, and prosperity for all. a Canada that is a beacon to a world at sea, a Canada that is clear-eyed about the challenges that we face and steadfast in the values we uphold, a Canada that is not just strong, but good, a Canada that is not just prosperous, but fair. Votre Excellence, au nom du gouvernement du Canada,
on behalf of the Government of Canada and all Canadians, I thank you for agreeing to take on this new role for the good of Canada. And it is now my pleasure to welcome the 31st Governor-General of Canada, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I now invite Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour, Governor-General of Canada, to deliver her address.
J'invite maintenant Son Excellence,
I now invite Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Louise Arbour, Governor-General of Canada, to deliver her address.
Monsieur le Premier Ministre, honorable juge de la Cour
Prime Minister,
suprême,
honourable justices of the Supreme Court,
ministers and members of the House of Commons, distingués chefs et aînés autochtones,
distinguished Indigenous chiefs and elders.
Je suis profondément honoré de me présenter
I am
devant vous
deeply
aujourd'hui.
honored to stand before
Ces
you
lieux
today.
ont été érigés sur
These
le
halls
territoire traditionnel
were
de la
built on the
nation
traditional
Algonquin
territory
Anishinaabe,
of the Algonquin
un peuple
Anishinaabe
fier qui prend
Nation,
soin de ses
a proud
terres
people
et qui les
who have
enrichit
cared
de
for
sa
these
culture
lands
depuis
and
des
enriched
millénaires.
them with their culture for millennia.
We are gathered here today in the Senate chambers, where careful scrutiny is applied to the laws that will shape our future. Comme la Cour suprême du Canada et la Chambre
Like
des
the
communes,
Supreme Court of Canada
le
and the
Sénat
House of
contribue au
Commons,
dialogue
the Senate
travers lequel
contributes
la
to the
démocratie
dialogue
canadienne
through
s'exprime.
which Canadian democracy is
I
expressed.
want to thank Prime Minister Carney and His Majesty King Charles III for entrusting me with the opportunity to serve another great Canadian institution in this new role over the coming years. I also wish to thank the Right Honourable Mary Simon for her remarkable service. Her Excellency stood with Canadians through defining moments, from the COVID-19 pandemic to periods of economic strain and profound shifts in the global landscape. Her tenure as Canada's first Indigenous Governor-General will be viewed by history as both significant and timely. I admire the hand that Her Excellency has extended to all Canadians. She has reminded us that reconciliation is a lifelong journey that begins with listening and with empathy. Listening to voices that challenge our understanding of history. Listening to Indigenous environmental and spiritual knowledge, deeply sophisticated, yet long overlooked. Listening to languages unfamiliar to many of us, that have resonated from coast to coast to coast for centuries, and embracing a future in which First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples are no longer cast aside.
For my part, I have learned the importance of understanding differing points of view, both through my education and throughout my professional life. In fact, I have experienced both the comfort and discomfort of homogeneity. I grew up in Montreal in a comfortably homogeneous environment. I grew up in uniform, educated exclusively by women, my mother and the sisters of the Congregation of Notre Dame. Until the age of 20, I was surrounded by classmates who were all Francophone, white, Catholic girls, just like me. I then worked in another largely homogeneous environment, one that was predominantly Anglophone and male-dominated. And despite the promise I made to myself at age 20 to never again wear a uniform, I donned my judge's robe without the slightest inkling of the surprises life has in store for us. I then had the incredible opportunity to work abroad. I discovered the richness of the connections to be made with people with whom we thought we had nothing in common. My work, both as a judge and in service to the international community, exposed me to a wide range of perspectives. The same is true of the privilege I had of living abroad and working in countries that are vastly different from Canada. I have seen regions ravaged by war and poverty, where people, like all of us, yearn to live with dignity in peace and security. And I've always been struck by the fact that everything is a matter of perspective.
I remember standing outside the United Nations headquarters in New York in the 1990s, confronted with my own biases. I came across a group of Chinese tourists, and I asked a young woman about her impressions of New York. She replied, "It's so old." I was surprised, and then I realized that I had been projecting a story onto her, imagining her as coming from a civilization of centuries-old splendor and gazing at a vibrant city in a younger country. In reality, she was more likely born in futuristic Shenzhen or Shanghai, glittering metropolises of glass towers. So there I was, looking at New York, looking at her, and making assumptions. Perspective is everything. Je vois le Canada avec le regard de quelqu'un qui l'a connu de près.
I look at Canada through the eyes of someone who has known it both up close and from afar, always with admiration. A country that is not afraid to reinvent itself. Our future is our shared project, a project that calls on us to balance the many perspectives that shape our collective identity. We do not all share the same understanding of our history, nor do we all share the same origins. We, or our ancestors, come from all over the world. Peoples have always traveled. I am thinking in particular of Inuit families who have always traversed the vast expanse of the Arctic. And humanity has always sought to go further, to push the boundaries, and to go higher, as our Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen did on his mission into space. How could anyone be anything other than awestruck by the thought that he set his eyes on places no other human being had ever seen before? So I say this with confidence, let us not slow our momentum toward progress out of fear of differences.
Extreme polarization is dangerous. but so is extreme consensus. It is through our differences and our fundamental right to express them that we will nourish critical thinking, creativity, and innovation. It is through our differences that we will build a common future. As Canadians, we have the extraordinary privilege of living in a mature democracy. We benefit from strong institutions that allow different views to be expressed. We must continue to protect the public space in which our national debates take place, from schools and universities to the media, to political parties, unions, and civil society organizations, from theaters, concert halls, and museums, to courtrooms and the floors of our legislative assemblies. The peaceful management of our differences is nowhere better expressed than in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter guarantees that our cherished individual rights are subject only to the reasonable limits that are necessary for life in a free and peaceful democracy. This is what it means to live under the rule of law. In an open society like ours, the purpose of law is not to restrain, but to construct a greater freedom for all. We have a constitutional and cultural framework that allows us to imagine, to explore, to innovate, and to experiment. Our humor is grounded in self-deprecation. We believe in leading as a team. We do not mistake humility for weakness, nor do we measure a person's worth by the thickness of their wallet. We don't think we are perfect, but we believe we're pretty well on the way there. We have a remarkable capacity to pause, to examine our failures, and to learn from them. And when we do, we seek to understand, not just to blame. And we know that we're not yet doing enough. Not enough for each other, let alone for the billions around the world who look at us with justifiable envy. Our country covers nearly 7% of the world's landmass and holds 20% of its fresh water, and yet we make up just half of 1% of its population. We have the talents and the resources that the world will need most in the decades ahead. And young Canadians are citizens of the world. They're well-educated with both deep climate awareness and remarkable digital literacy. And yet, not all of them are able to reach their full potential as they face the headwinds of inequality. In that, we are failing them, and it is our shared responsibility to correct course. The better we advance our common project to build a great future for Canada, the greater our influence on the world will be. And for that, our ambition must be bold and sustained. Pour propulser le Canada à la hauteur de son potentiel,
to help Canada reach its full potential, we must adopt a new perspective, one that is ambitious and confident on ourselves and on our place in the world of tomorrow. Some of you may have heard the parable of the 3 stonemasons. A traveler comes across 3 stonemasons at work and asks them, "What are you doing?" The first replies, "I'm cutting stones." The second says, "I'm building a wall." The third replies, "I'm building a cathedral." I know that it can be difficult to feel as though you were part of the ambitious project of building the Canada of tomorrow. We all get caught up in the busyness of our day-to-day lives, meeting the demands of our children, of our colleagues, grappling with the cost of living. But the fact remains that each and every one of us, in our own way, is helping to shape what Canada will become.
and so too is our influence on the world. Our expertise already positions us among global leaders in many fields, from ethical artificial intelligence to clean technologies, from creative industries to medical research. The new technologies at our disposal are more powerful than ever. They're highly attractive and widely accessible. But we must ensure that their convenience doesn't lead us to overlook the profound societal shifts that they are driving. With instant access to vast amounts of information, it's very tempting to pay little attention to the reliability of sources. The lines between knowledge and belief, between truth and falsehood, between facts and assumptions are increasingly blurred. AI could be threatening not only the way we live and work, but also the control we exercise over our own destiny. And yet these challenges are not insurmountable. If we remain vigilant, we could meet them with public institutions that remain trustworthy, a strong education system at every level, sustained investment in science, research and development, and with a private sector that upholds the standards of integrity that Canadians expect. Je tiens maintenant à m'adresser en particulier aux jeunes du
I would
Canada.
now like to speak to young Canadians
C'est
in
aujourd'hui
particular.
que vous commencez à construire
Right
le
now,
monde dans
you are
lequel vos
starting to
enfants
build the
grandiront.
world in which your children
Et
will
votre
grow up.
tâche immédiate
Your
est de
first
vous construire
task
vous-même.
is to build yourselves.
Apprenez,
Learn,
explorez,
explore,
rêvez, mais
dream,
aussi écoutez,
but also
hésitez,
listen,
reculez.
pause, take a
Vous avez
step
entre
back.
les mains, comme les
Like the
générations qui vous ont
generations
précédés,
before you, you have
des
at your
outils qui
disposal
n'existaient pas quand vos parents
tools
sont
that
nés.
didn't exist when
Alors,
your parents were born.
surprenez-nous.
So surprise
Et
us.
ne sous-estimez pas la chance que vous avez
And
de
do not
grandir
underestimate how lucky you are to
Même
grow
si
up
vous êtes
here,
préoccupé à
even
juste
if you're rightly
titre
concerned
par les
about the
grands enjeux
major
de notre
challenges of
époque.
our time,
La santé de notre
the health of our
planète,
planet,
la distribution
the
inéquitable de la
inequitable
richesse
distribution of wealth,
et la violence des conflits armés.
and the violence of armed
Mais faites-vous
conflicts.
confiance. Le
But
Canada
trust in
vous offre
yourselves.
une grande
Canada
liberté
offers
et
you
d'immenses
tremendous
possibilités.
freedom and possibilities.
The world is watching. It's watching the country that we're building together. Former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan often spoke of the three pillars of the United Nations: security, development, and human rights. And he always stressed that there can be no security without development, no development without security, and neither development or security without the protection of human rights. This is as true in Canada as it is everywhere else. As we undertake major initiatives to strengthen our economy and to strengthen our security, and to grow our economy, including in the Arctic, we must remain attentive to the rights of those directly affected, and we must always ensure a fair sharing of both burdens and benefits. Our collective security rests above anything else on the trust that we place in each other. Of course, I cannot speak of security without recognizing the vital contribution of the Canadian Armed Forces to peace, stability, and security, both around the world and here at home when there are times of great hardship. I recently came across a remark by General Jenny Carignan, Chief of the Defense Staff, who described the forces as long-standing exporters of security. I think today these vital efforts are being complemented by a renewed focus on defending our own vast territory. À nos membres en uniforme,
to our uniformed members, I express my deepest gratitude for your service, your professionalism, and your commitment to excellence. And I stand with your families, who share in the sacrifices that this commitment
I'm very
entails.
encouraged to see recruitment efforts bearing fruit with more Canadians from diverse genders, backgrounds, and perspectives choosing to serve. Significant progress is also being made within the forces to foster inclusion with dignity. Building on a proud tradition of respect and honor, this continued modernization will, over time, strengthen effectiveness and morale. It will also enhance your capacity by better reflecting the country that you're called to protect. It's a profound honor for me to assume the role of Commander-in-Chief of Canada. À l'aube de mes nouvelles fonctions, je suis consciente
As I
du
take on
privilège
my
qui
new
m'est
role,
accordé
I am
d'aller à la
mindful of the
rencontre
privilege
de
given to me
Canadiennes
to
et de
go out
Canadiens
and meet
partout
with
au pays
Canadians right across
et de
this country
découvrir la richesse
and to
des
discover
idées
the
et des
wealth of
idéaux qui les
ideas
animent.
and ideals that inspire
Je me
them.
prépare à être surprise
I am preparing
et à
myself to
être
be
confrontée
surprised
à mes propres
and to confront
stéréotypes et à
my
mes
own
biais
stereotypes and
Comme
unconscious
ce jour
biases,
où une
like
jeune
that day
Chinoise
when a
m'a
young
fait
Chinese
sourire en
woman
trouvant que tout à
made
New
me
York
smile
était très
when she
vieux.
remarked that everything in New
Je me
York was
ferai un
old.
plaisir d'apprendre et de
I
partager
can't
avec
wait to
vous
learn
des
and share with
réflexions
you
sur
my
le bonheur
thoughts
de découvrir les autres.
on the joy of discovering
Et
others.
quand je serai appelée à représenter le
And when I
Canada
am
à
called upon
l'extérieur
to
du
represent
pays,
Canada
ou
beyond
encore
our
à accueillir
borders,
des dignitaires
or to
étrangers chez
welcome
nous,
foreign dignitaries
c'est
here at
cette
home,
richesse de voix
it
canadiennes
is
que j'ai
this
l'intention de
diversity
porter.
of Canadian voices that
En
I intend to
particulier,
showcase.
j'espère pouvoir incarner
I
chaque
hope
jour
that each day I will be able
l'esprit
to embody
d'empathie
the
qui est
spirit
au
of
cœur
empathy
de notre
that
grand
lies at the
projet
heart
de
of our great
réconciliation.
reconciliation project.
Together, we can harness our extraordinary resources, the breadth of our talent, our collective know-how, and our boundless imagination. The world is watching us, not to copy everything we do, but to draw inspiration from a country striving to embrace the future with greater security, prosperity, and dignity for all. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Merci, Excellence. Thank you, Excellency. For the singing of our national anthem, I am pleased to invite the 2024 recipient of the Governor General's Performing Arts Award for Lifetime Artistic Achievement in Classical Music, soprano Misha Bruger-Gozman Lee. Veuillez vous lever pour l'interprétation du O
Please
Canada.
rise
Please rise
for
the
the
singing
singing
of O Canada.
of the Canadian anthem.
True patriot's love
Honored guests, distingués invités, cette portion de la cérémonie se terminera bientôt.
Honored guests,
Dans quelques
this
instants, son excellence
ceremony is
et le
coming to a
cortège
close.
officiel quitteront la
In
chambre
just a
du
moment,
Sénat. Pendant ce temps,
the
Alicia
national
Bloor nous offrira une prestation de violon
guests will be
métis.
departing for
Elle
the War
interpréta
Memorial.
une suite de la Red River Jig,
Before
une
that,
célèbre
Alicia
danse
Bloor will
traditionnelle
provide a
métisse,
performance of Métis
accompagnée du
fiddle
violon, souvent
and
interprétée
interpret a
lors de
suite of the Red
célébrations.
River Jig, a very famous traditional dance.
All right, and there you have it. That is Canada's 31st Governor-General, Louise Arbour, wrapping up the official ceremony that brought her into this role, leaving the Senate foyer now with the usher of the Black Rod. They're going to take a pause, a small break, and then she and the Prime Minister and two of her grandsons are going to make their way to the National War Memorial. Her sort of first task as Governor-General and, of course, Commander-in-Chief of the Canadian Armed Forces. A lovely ceremony, punctuated, highlighted with a couple of moments chosen by the Governor-General. A Québécois song by Les Cowboys Fringants that talked about public service, a woman who dedicated her life to public service. You can see the parallels there. And a Raffi song for all those parents who've listened to many Raffi songs many, many times about diversity and children and protecting their rights as well. So lots of nods to the career that Louise Arbour has had. And then a very substantive speech by the Governor-General in her first address to the nation, where she did talk a little bit about her own background, but she also talked about some of the things that are important to her, the rule of law, namely, but also some of the things that she is watching for or is sort of telling Canadians to watch for or be aware of. And here I'll bring in David Cochrane to talk a little bit about that speech. There was a lot in there if you were trying to understand the person that Louise Arbour is, the Governor-General that she will be. Talking about how perspective is everything.
Yeah.
Something that she plans to bring to the role as she gets to know Canadians up close and personal. But there was lots of other things that are very current too, not least of which was her conversation or her comments about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I thought she gave a pretty remarkable, though not exhaustive, summary of sort of the potential of Canada
Sure.
and the challenges of Canada, right? Where she talked about how billions around the world look at us with justifiable envy because of the resources at our disposal and the potential Canada has as a country, and underline that with someone who knows Canada from up close and afar, and struck by the ability of the country to change and adapt as the world changes and forces adaptation on a middle power like Canada. She spoke about the profound societal shifts that we're dealing with because of technology and artificial information, the great challenges you face as a country of inequality, in particular generational inequality, and when she spoke directly to young people, challenges from climate, challenges from technology. But I thought a part that really stuck out to me, and obviously I think it's because of the profession in which we work and sort of the issues that we talk about, when she said, our collective security rests above everything else on the trust we place in each other. And this was in that section where she talked about artificial intelligence and technology and the convenience of this new technology to deliver information in a split second, that it becomes easy not to trust, not to assess the reliability of the information. And she talked about the challenges caused by knowledge versus belief, truth versus falsehood. And this ties it back to the whole issue of perspective that she opened it with, that the ability to understand each other's perspective, to have a reliable base of information, institutions that are credible and trustworthy. These are all the things that you need in a country that is undergoing profound challenges to hold everything together. And she touched on a lot more of the big currents of public policy and politics than I think I expected to see in a direct and specific way. But I think it was a very substantive speech, obviously from someone who is a quite substantive individual.
I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting that on the heels of the government unveiling its AI strategy, that the new Governor General would say that AI could threaten not only the way we live and work, but could also control our destiny. Challenges that are not insurmountable, she said. So for her to seize on something that, sure, we're all thinking about, talking about, and potentially worrying about, and to sort of issue that warning on the heels of the government strategy, to me seemed an interesting lean in on her part. She also, and many people have said to me that she has a great sense of humor. Probably not always evident when you're being a great legal mind, but she did crack a very funny joke during the speech where she said, we don't believe we are perfect, but we do believe we're pretty much on our way there, which is sort of sum up the way Canadians think about themselves, which is something that was also threaded through the speech, the way Canadians view themselves, and how she plans to sort of take that on, very consciously also talking several times about her own biases, and how she is preparing herself to be challenged by her own biases as she goes out into the country and prepares herself to be surprised, she said, by what she learns.
Yeah, the way she talked about her own personal biographical details, right? Growing up, in a all-girls Catholic school, Francophone, like basically for the first 20 years, surrounded by women, educated by women, all white, all Francophone, all Catholic. And, that sort of narrow and in a way a cultural isolation limits your perspective. And it was by getting out into the world and traveling the world that she broadened her perspective. And I think she tried to use that as an illustration of where you start is not where you end in terms of your understanding of things. And the line about knowing Canada from up close and from afar, it is a useful thing to remind a country that often forgets how well off it is relative to the rest of the world, that the majority of the planet does look to a country like Canada with envy, as she said, because of what we've been able to accomplish, and broadly through largely peaceful transitions, though the history of any country is punctuated with darker moments. But speaking to the need to have this perspective and reliable conversation in the information space on how to deal with the challenges that we face. And that is going to be something the country grapples with over the next little while.
And maybe that is, although she didn't say, here's my mandate and my mission, maybe she was speaking to some of those issues that she believes are important to consider as she takes on this role. Just wanted to say that those two young men that you saw there were Louise Arbour's two of her grandchildren, Henry and Henri, and Max Spratt, both teenagers. The children of Emily Tamman, who is the daughter of Louise Arbour, and they are the two teens that are going to accompany their grandmother and the Chi-Chi to the National War Memorial at the next portion of this ceremony as we wrap things up on this part of it anyway. I want to take a minute to talk about what the Prime Minister said as well, because I think he again highlighted why he has chosen Madame Arbour, Her Excellency, for this role. He talked about her unwavering commitment to the rule of law. And again, as we've been talking about through the morning, David, talked about the institutions must be held to account. And I think we're starting to get a sense of why he believes that in this moment, this Governor General is important, because some of those things, as she also alluded to in her speech, are being questioned and tested and pushed. And for her to understand the importance of institutions and the rule of law, justice, dignity, equality, all things the Prime Minister highlighted, that is also very important.
Yeah, he also used the geography of the building that they were in, right, to sort of place this moment in the long arc of Canadian history. You know, this was the train station where troops would have gotten on a train to go to one of the ports, to get on a boat, to go to the battlefields of the First World War. That was where Winston Churchill arrived during the Second World War to speak to the Canadian government, and also the building that hosted the First Minister's meeting on the repatriation of the Constitution and the adoption of the Charter of Rights, and where, of course, 13 months ago, Rosemary, the King, opened Parliament for the first time with Mark Carney as an elected Prime Minister, shall we say. So he used sort of the space to sort of, and those hinge moments of the past, right, of the two great wars, and the constitutional maturity of Canada as a sovereign nation, to tie to what he calls this hinge moment where respect for institutions is vital. Talking about the Governor General's role as a guardian of the constitutional order, as a defender of institutions, the need to have deep learning, respect for the rule of law, and of course exercise sound judgment. I don't think anyone has credible doubts about Louise Arbour's ability to exercise sound judgment, even if you don't agree with her ultimate decision-making process or her respect for the rule of law, or certainly her deep learning. And when you look at the themes and the arguments that she presented in that first speech, it complemented what the Prime Minister's message was quite well, I think, in terms of the moment we're in and the need for the institutions of the country to be copper-fastened, credible and functional to help the nation get through it and thrive on the other side.
Yeah, the Governor General also talked about institutions allow different views to be expressed, which I thought was an important thing to think about. It's not the institutions and the rule of law and the systems that prevent you from being different or expressing different opinions. In fact, it is those things that allow you to do it, and for everyone to have different perspectives.
Yeah, she had a line, I was jotting it down, I got the first part, I think, verbatim. We must continue to protect the public space in which our debates exist, essentially. And she talked about institutions, universities, schools, the media, and talked about the disagreements that exist in a country, the diversity of views that exist in a country. Let's not slow our momentum towards progress out of our fear of differences. And, when you have the potential for either a send a message or set the stage referendum in Alberta in October, when you have the possibility of a separatist government being elected in Quebec also in that same month, promising yet another referendum in that province within the first year, the ability of the country to credibly talk to each other is going to be vital in this period of time, to have a conversation on a common understanding. Because, when I was a much younger person growing up, we had a common set of facts and a common set of problems as a country, and we argued over the solutions. And now increasingly, the country argues over the facts. And that is a bad place to be in. And it is exacerbated by the rise of technology and the tech companies, some of which are outside of the constraints of the laws of Canada, of the government of Canada, of the values of Canada. And this is something that, a lot of Western democracies are grappling with, that we've kind of outsourced the guardianship of our information economy and our democratic conversations to tech companies that don't necessarily share our motivations and our values. And I think she was getting at some of that in her part about, our collective security rests above everything else on the trust we place in each other. That is a vital thing, to believe that even people you disagree with are acting in good faith in a pluralistic democracy, because if you don't have that, it all splinters and frays.
This is some more of the sort of official business that has to happen as part of this day, the signature of the proclamation marking the Governor General's ascension to the role, and a series of other books that have to be signed, including, I think that's the visitor book of the Senate. All of those things will get signed as part of the official wrapping up part of this ceremony and of this moment. And then you will see the Governor General, the Prime Minister, make their way past where we are here to the National War Memorial. I will just take a moment, too, to speak, I think, about her comments about the military, because we haven't really talked about another role that the Governor General, I'm going to get used to calling her that in
Yes.
this role, that she took on, and that was the independent military review, where she was asked to look again at the issues of sexual assault inside the Canadian Armed Forces, and made many recommendations, most of which, I believe, if not all of which, have now been adopted. But she described the Canadian Armed Forces at that time as a toxic culture of misogyny. So as now the commander-in-chief of those same Canadian Armed Forces, I think it was important in that moment that she reach out to them. She talked about how inclusion with dignity is helping modernize the Canadian Armed Forces, and the importance of she felt of her role as the commander-in-chief, and how honored she was to take that on. But it is a pretty unusual situation, as you were talking about, the fact that she was a former Supreme Court judge, but the fact that she took on that role of trying to modernize and change the Canadian Armed Forces, and now here she is the commander-in-chief, which is a pretty unusual turn of events.
Well, and it's notable too, Rosemary, how foundational the implementation of our recommendations will be for this era that the military is embarking on, where it has gone from being, underfunded and perhaps under-prioritized, I think it's fair to say, and then really appearing in the news through controversy and scandal, which led to the work that the Governor General was asked to do prior to this appointment. But now, as Canada has hit the 2% NATO spending target for the first time since the Cold War, as it's trying to chart out a path to get to 3.5% and ultimately 5% of GDP spending there to drive industrial policy, economic growth, economic resilience, economic sovereignty, and technological capacity through the defense sector and through the Canadian military. The organization that is at the heart of so many of the national priorities must function, and must function well, and must be credible, and must have a culture that, if not perfect, is on a positive trajectory. It can't be the thing that holds it back, because so much of what the country is seeking to do on the economic development side and the geopolitical credibility side hinges on it, right? Because the U.S. has created this leadership vacuum globally. There's seats at a lot of serious tables, but if you're not serious on defense, you may get invited, but you're not going to be heard.
I want to go to Ashley Burke, who is inside the Senate, and she has a guest with her. Ashley.
Hi, Rosie. I'm with Bob Ray, former ambassador to the United Nations, who's known the new Governor General, Louise Arbour, for more than 40 years. What was it like inside the chamber? What moment stood out to you?
Well, it was just very warm. It was a very warm feeling, and a lot of affection for her. People have known her for a long time. I think many people in the room have worked with her in different ways. And she just has an extraordinary grasp of people and issues, got a great sense of humor, and tremendous amount of energy. And I think Canadians who perhaps haven't seen her or don't know her would get a feeling about that from it. Great music. Loved the Raffi. I thought the whole thing was great. That's a terrific event.
She's joining this office at a time when national unity in Canada is being tested. What advice do you have for her?
Well, I think she's doing the right thing. I mean, her speech today was really quite extraordinary, because part of it was very sort of the traditional, touching all the bases, but a good part of it was being very direct and engaging with Canadians about the issues, the things that they're worried about, and going also beyond the country to talking about her own global experience. I mean, she is going to be speaking to us from a perspective that very few other Canadians have, of the amount of public service that she's done. She's been a war crimes prosecutor. She's been a human rights commissioner. She's given advice. She knows the UN system well. She just has a tremendous amount to contribute to the discussion. And she's going to be a very different kind of Governor General. I think we already saw that today.
You've talked about what a difficult time this is. There's more conflicts in the world than we've ever seen before. You've said that it's more tyrannical, it's more unpredictable, more risky. What message does this appointment send to both Canada and the world?
I think that it sends a message that we have somebody who knows the world and who the world also knows. And she is the head of state of Canada, as was pointed out today, and she's somebody who I think is going to represent us here at home, but also globally tremendously well, with a great deal of compassion and a lot of good humor and a lot of common sense. And I think that's going to really help in what the work that she does, but also in recognizing the importance of the job that she has to do.
Is there a personal story or anything that you want Canadians to know today?
Well, she's really funny, and she is extremely ironic and very direct in her dealings with people and with friends. And I saw that twinkle occasionally in a couple of things that she said in the speech. But also I could see, what was fun for me was to see how she was into this. She knew, and it was something, a job that she's going to take very seriously. She's going to make us all very proud. I think that's what was great about it. And I was thinking as I was sitting there that actually I've shaken hands with every Canadian Governor General since Vincent Massey when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and all the way through. So she's going to be great.
That's Bob Rays, Canada's former ambassador to the United Nations.
Okay, Ashley Burke, thank you for that. I think Bob Ray was reminding us of his age, which he probably doesn't want to do, but it was a good story nonetheless. Here is the Governor General making her way, actually just in front of where we are, up Wellington Street, on her way to the National War Memorial, again with her two of her grandchildren. A couple of teenagers who are accompanying her on her new role as Governor General, but also their grandma. As I was talking to her daughter, their mother last week, she is pretty regular, is what her daughter, of course, would imagine she would say, but she's easy to talk to and a regular person and easy to get to know. So that'll be interesting to uncover those parts of her over the next number of years. The Governor General's flag insignia up top of the House of Commons, as is tradition when the Governor General is in the vicinity of Parliament Hill on the precinct. She's just making her way past us now. Janice is down there by the National War Memorial. Janice, this is, it's significant obviously that this would be sort of the first act that she would do as Governor General.
Yeah, if there's a narrative emerging today, right, it's the way that the various aspects of her long CV are also contributing to the role she's going to play going forward, right? You were talking about the review that she conducted 5 or so years back, making recommendations about improving the institutional institutional culture, pardon me, sunny day, of the Canadian Armed Forces. And now preparing for her first ceremony as the Commander-in-Chief. Members of her family have gathered kind of just behind me here to watch this part of the ceremony, as I can kind of see her walking slowly in our direction. There are some people lining here as if it was sort of a mini Remembrance Day ceremony, if you will. It will have some elements of that with a wreath laying. But it was very powerful during her remarks when she got to the part of her speech about modernizing the military. That was the exact same moment when members of the Governor General Foot Guard, which if you've been to Ottawa in the summer, you know they conduct a lot of ceremonies both on the Hill and at Rideau Hall. They marched up to sort of assemble for this ceremony here, and the Central Band of the Armed Forces came, the pipers started warming up, as if on cue, as if they knew that she was talking about how she sees her future role in the role, as sort of she quoted the CDS there, talking about the exporters of security and the importance of diversity adding to that strength, right? So I think a powerful moment in store here as she arrives at the National War Memorial to do these rituals for the first time as a Commander-in-Chief, after speaking so powerfully, both in this speech and previously, about how seriously she takes this part of the job and the immense respect she has for the young men and women currently serving and who may be called upon to do very serious things in the years to come.
And this is the beginning of many meet and greets that the Governor General will have to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she gets to understand you got to shake hands, you got to spend some time talking to Canadians and adjusting into that role, because while those roles, Janice, that she had previously were public roles, they were not necessarily roles in which she was engaging with Canadians in the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
Now she's being told where to go, which is also part of her job. Yeah.
Well, protocol, right?
That's right.
This protocol is new. Not that she hasn't had roles full of protocol in the past. But yeah, her new kind of status as a representative of the Crown is such a powerful symbol, particularly for the military. Among the people kind of lining the red carpet here, as if to underscore this point, are a number of veterans who are going to be sort of the closest witness to what she's about to do. A number of them wearing blue berets today. I think a very obvious homage to her work with the United Nations and that part of Canada's military history. And I think a very deliberate choice. There's no accidental choices on a day like today. All ceremony is deliberate. But I think a very powerful set of symbols we're about to see here, accompanied by the young men who are her grandchildren. Again, after having that kind of very interesting part of her speech, speaking to the young people of Canada, right? Don't miss the symbolism of her bringing her grandsons with her for this moment in kind of what is a call to action, a call to service. Even as she serves, I think another message of the day is a call to everyone to serve, to building up, Canada, as the Prime Minister said, not only strong, but good. Right? I think we're about to see some embodiment of that.
We're going to get another 21-gun salute, David, so prepare yourself, because you weren't prepared the last time. That's right.
Yeah, I flinched pretty badly when they started firing earlier.
evening. I'm Captain Christine Davies, Commanding Officer of Central Command Canadian Armed Forces. There's 27 on the parade. Would you like to inspect the first rank? Thank you.
d'honneur, salut royal, présentez, out.
Okay, and there is the Governor General, Louise Arbour, doing her first visit as the Commander-in-Chief and Governor General to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, laying flowers there in a very special moment with two of her grandchildren, and doing her first inspection of the guard and things that she will do many, many times now over the course of her time as Governor General. She's bidding goodbye to everyone there, and she's going to make her way now to Rideau Hall, her new home. And we will talk a little bit more over the course of the next half hour or so with some of the people who know her and what we can expect from her. David, that's an important part of the job of Governor General, Commander-in-Chief, and being there to speak with some of the members of the Canadian Armed Forces that are there, laying those flowers at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Now we just disperse.
Yeah, it's interesting too. It is a shift in the sort of the public service that she has done throughout her career. This is very different in that there is a ceremonial and performative function to it in a way that with the Supreme Court was, legislative. You were passing down judgments, right?
Yes.
You had and the other roles with the United Nations were mission-driven and purpose-driven. Not that you can't have those things in the role as the Governor General of Canada, but there is far more of a public ceremonial function in it, much like in the Prime Minister's job, you're there to make decisions, but there is also the public political dynamic that you have to fulfill in these various public-facing roles. So that will be a change for her. I don't think it's going to be a problem for her by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a shift in sort of the nature of the public service that Louise Arbour is taking on at this stage in her professional life after one that had far less of this sort of walking about and shaking hands sort of thing. You don't see the Supreme Court doing this ever, for example.
Now, she did, in some of her roles with both as the International Prosecutor of War Crimes and with the UN, she had a lot of dealings with people, but not necessarily in Canada, so that might be a little different. The Prime Minister and his wife, Diana Fox-Carney, now ending their formal portion of the ceremony. I would imagine he's going back to the office to do some work, but that would just be my guess. And while we watch him depart, there's lots of people there lining the street for this moment.
And the Prime Minister's office is just up screen, up towards the top of the screen, they're going up towards the parliamentary precinct.
You just listen a little bit. Sometimes it's interesting the way the Prime Minister might interact with people.
Yeah. How long are you here?
Just a few days.
Okay, so they're from England. Everyone take care of them. Okay, they'll bring you into Darcy McGee's and everyone will buy you around.
Thank you, sir.
Very, very welcoming country. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you. A pleasure. Good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Thanks.
All right, as we watch the Prime Minister do his thing, make small talk with Canadians, I'm going to bring in another special guest, Beverly McLaughlin. She was the Chief Justice during most of Louise Arbour's time, I think all of the time.
Yes, all of it, yes.
At the Supreme Court, and of course the longest-serving Chief Justice in Canadian history. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Rosemary.
Well, this is a special day. Tell me what what was going through your mind as you watched your former colleague and friend Louise Arbour become the Governor General?
Well, just total delight. I think it was a great day for Canada and Canadians. She is truly an extraordinary person and will be a great Governor General.
What do you think will make her such a great Governor General?
Well, I think one of the things is her compassion. And that is coupled with a deep understanding of what this country is about.
Yeah.
I mean, she's had many occasions to look into, in depth, different aspects of Canadian society, from her time on the Supreme Court to the various commissions she's done. And she's served abroad, which has given her a great world perspective, which I think is very valuable in a Governor General. They are a representative of Canada, in Canada, but also abroad. And this is a moment when Canada's looking abroad. And I think it's all part of a big picture that will emerge. I think she'll be a very strong and resilient. She's a ferocious and passionate advocate for different things, and I think she will find ways to express herself in this office as she has in any others.
I wonder how you think her legal training, her extensive legal training, what you know about her as a judge and a legal mind, how that will play into this role.
Yeah, well, I've thought about that, and she has a absolutely first-rate legal mind. And wrote some great judgments while she was on the Supreme Court of Canada. And she understands, but the answer to your question is that this is a constitutional role. And from time to time, a Governor General can be called upon to make decisions on constitutional matters relating to the government. And those can be very difficult, as we've seen in the past, perogration or whatever. And she is so well equipped to do that because she has a deep understanding of the Constitution, how it works, and so on. So to me, this will really be a great asset to her.
I wonder if it'll be an asset to the Prime Minister as well. He sort of talked about when he announced her in this role that he might, I don't know, lean on her a little bit when if the moment called, and it's possible the moment will call given the things happening.
So that's interesting. There's different prime ministers have different relationships with the Governor General, but many prime ministers have called on the Governor General almost weekly or bi-weekly to simply discuss the state of the nation or whatever, not wanting anything, not proroguing Parliament or anything, but just to get the advice and thoughts of the Governor General, who is a person who will be talking to Canadians all across the country, who understands the country profoundly. I think her emphasis will also be, as she indicated in her speech, on the youth and rallying the youth and encouraging the youth and representing them to some extent to the Prime Minister. So as she said in her speech, it's all about perspectives. And the Governor General, this Governor General, will certainly bring different perspectives, and I took I was happy with the Prime Minister's suggestion that there would be a back and forth. I hope he and she develop that kind of relationship.
As there is between the King and the Prime Minister in the United Kingdom.
They should. I'm hoping they're meeting often, but it's not for me to decide. But I would like to see that.
You can weigh in.
It's interesting with Louise Arbour, what an anomaly she is, in that had she stayed on the court until the 75 retirement, it would have been just over a year ago when she would have left. And instead, it's been nearly 22 years since she left the court. We often don't see this, right? Somebody leaving so early in their tenure, pursuing other things. What do you think Canadians will learn about her in this role?
Louise had been working on war crimes and things, and she was passionately devoted to international justice as well as Canadian justice. And she was a wonderful justice. She contributed amazingly in Canada. But I think that her interest has always been human rights, and when she was invited by the United Nations to be the chair of the Human Rights Commission, that was something
hard to turn down.
It was hard to turn down. I was very sorry to see her go. I can say that as her Chief Justice. I said, she said, I don't. They've had many conversations, but anyway, I know she went for good reasons. We would have loved to have her until, as you say, a few years ago.
Listen, it was nice to see you.
Nice
Thank you
to
for
see
stopping
you.
by
Thank
on this
you.
special day. Good to
Thank
see you.
you.
Former Chief Justice
Yes.
Beverly McLaughlin. We're talking about who is Canada's incoming Governor General outside of the illustrious career we were just discussing. I sat down with someone who knows Louise Arbour well, her daughter, Emily Tamman. Here's a bit of that conversation. How did you find out that your mom was going to be the Governor General?
Yeah, she just very unexpectedly got a call one day and asked whether it was something she would be willing to consider, and obviously very out of the blue. I think she was finally coasting towards the idea of maybe being somewhat retired at 79. So she was kind of, do you think I should do this? And we had a great conversation about it. And I could just see the sparkle in her eye and the idea of kind of digging in again and having work to do was something that I could see right away that she was going to be up for.
What does it mean to you and your family?
I mean, just on a totally selfish personal level, it's exciting for us that she'll be moving to Ottawa, which is also where we live. And my children have never lived in the same city as her before. And so she was able to come to an event at my son's school already and that kind of thing. So that's really nice. And for my kids and for my family, having the opportunity to be on the periphery of that really important work and getting to visit her at Rideau Hall obviously is something that's just really exciting for us.
I want to talk a little bit about your mom's resume. It's very impressive. She's done a lot of big things, Supreme Court Justice, international war criminal prosecutor, human rights at the UN. What stands out for you as part of her legacy already as she moves into this role?
Oh, well, it's like you said, it's kind of hard to pin it down. I think something that I've taken away from her career, I would say, is that she's worked so hard and so well in every job that she's had that it's always led to a really unexpected next opportunity, I think I would say. Like, she's not someone who had a really detailed 5, 10, 15-year plan and was aiming towards, some next particular high office. Very much like this, she would describe it as just things falling under her plate or just being in the right place at the right time. But like, my analysis of it is that a lot of it just comes from people really love working with her, and she does a good job, in the jobs that she's had, and so it leads to these other things.
Part of being the Governor General, I think, is listening, getting to know Canadians, but Canadians also have to get to know Louise Arbour. What would you want them to know in these first couple of days?
I think just that she's a regular person like everyone else, and it really is true. Like, friends of mine growing up, they just find this all so too much because they just know her as like, a mom in sweatpants on the weekend kind of thing. And so in that way, like, she doesn't have airs. She is a really genuinely good listener, and she's had the opportunity in the course of her career to hear from people from all walks of life, from people that have experienced a lot of hardship and trauma in really, really difficult personal circumstances to heads of state and advocates, and so I think she will be really good at that part of the job, and she's someone who, when you meet her, you feel at ease immediately. And so I think she'll really have the capacity to build trust with people quite easily just because of her temperament and demeanor.
Little bit of insight into Canada's new Governor General from her daughter. We're going to go now to the grounds of Rideau Hall, where the new Governor General is arriving or has arrived shortly, where she's going to have a reception with some of her friends and family. There it is, and her new staff, because she's got to introduce herself to all those people who are going to help her in her new job. CBC's David Thurton is there. David?
Hey, Rosie. Yeah, in addition to all those people that are gathered here, members of the public are also here, and I'm joined by Elizabeth. What brought you out here today?
You know what? I live just around the corner, and Rideau Hall is sort of an extension of our backyard, and I wanted to welcome our new neighbor.
Okay, and this is really a central part of your neighborhood. You were telling me about all the things that happen here and your hopes for Rideau Hall with, a new Governor General in residence here. Can you just tell me about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, the place is open to the public, it's open to neighbors, beautiful grounds. I even taught my daughter how to ski over there. The trees are gorgeous. I mean, it's part of the neighborhood. We love the grounds, but we also like getting to know the Governor General, what's happening. And, honestly, today is super exciting. It's not only a gorgeous day outside, but this is a good news story. It pumps you up with a little bit of happy, and I can't wait to see her.
And it looks like she's arriving. Any quick advice or well wishes for her?
Oh, I wish her the best, and I'm so excited that she's been installed. Come on out and visit with neighbors, and come see us. The park's over there.
Liz, thank you so much. Really appreciate this. Rosie, back to you.
Thanks, David. That's perfect timing. The Governor General arriving there now at Rideau Hall, where she's greeted by some of her staff members who will be working very, very closely with her over the next number of years. And I think she's going to do another vice-regal salute here.
Salut royal, présentez, out!
Going to be hearing a lot of God Save the King in the years to come as the Governor General, as we watch those pictures unfold as Louise Arbour, Her Excellency, arrives home, as it were. I want to bring in someone else who's worked with her and knows her. Natasha Back clerked under Louise Arbour at the Supreme Court of Canada in 2003. She's now a law professor at the University of Ottawa. Nice to see you, Natasha. I don't quite hear you yet. We'll see if we can get the volume working. Tell me what Canadians should know about the new Governor General, Louise Arbour, as a person.
I would say that Canadians should know that she is steeped in human rights. And I think what that really means is she cares. She really cares about people. She has wonderful relationships with many, many, many people. And she has so much respect for the people around her, and that means that the people around her have respect and admiration for her. She really brings out the best in people.
And what do you think she will bring to this role, as given her, her big, long career as a legal mind, working for the United Nations? What does she bring to the role of Governor General that might be different than what we've seen in the past?
Well, I think she's going to bring, brilliance. She is a brilliant mind. She's incredibly humble. So I think that humility is really going to help her when she's connecting with individuals across the country. She's a very kind and decent human being. And, that's saying something for somebody who is as accomplished as she is. She has had, I think, 42 honorary doctorates. She's met several heads of state. So, you'd sort of think that this is somebody who has the right to be snobby, if you'd like, but she is the opposite of that. She is down to earth and kind and, just very, very decent human being. So we're very lucky to have her. This is an exciting moment.
What did you learn from her, Natasha, as you were clerking for her and becoming a legal mind of your own? What did you learn from her?
So much. On the first day, I remember actually when I was interviewing with her, before I went into law, I was a dancer, and she was really interested in my dance and my choreography, and we talked about arts, and I thought, how wonderful that a person who is a legal mind is going to be rendering judgments that have an impact on the entire country, really believes in the arts, and thinks of this as a really important calling. So, I was just very touched by her, how open-minded she was, how respectful she was of me. She doesn't just talk the talk of human rights, she really walks it as well. I remember her saying to me, I may email you in the middle of the night, and that's just because I've thought of something that if I don't tell you, I'm not going to be able to sleep, but I don't expect you to respond to me at 2 a.m. So she was just a very kind and thoughtful employer who had a lot of respect for, I was just a young person coming out of law school, and indeed most of us clerks were at the time, and she just really valued the experience that we were bringing, the ideas that we were bringing to the job, even though, of course, she was the one who was teaching us, but she made it feel like we had something to bring to the table as well.
Well, that helps us understand her a little bit. I hear she's very funny, too. That's what Bob Ray said.
She is a very funny person. She is a kind person. You know, I remember she would have myself and my 2 co-clerks, that we were 3 women, and the 4 of us would get together and have dinners together. She would throw a lasagna into the oven and we would watch a movie. And, you know, that was a daunting experience initially, to be sitting with a Supreme Court of Canada judge. But then you just realize she's a very normal, to the extent that you can be as brilliant as she is, normal human being.
Natasha Beck, thank you so much for taking some time to talk about her. I'm sure it's a pretty special day for you as well. So thanks for being part of it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and you can see Louise Arbour there. She's actually greeting some of her family and friends now, because she will get to have, I think, a bit of a reception with some of the people that she's invited in to her new place. And as you were hearing there from David Thurton off the top, there are people. There's lots of houses around Rideau Hall, and those grounds are open to the public. And in previous times, you could run into a Governor General walking their dog, and so that could happen here as well. But there she goes into her new job, into her new home. David Cochran, just some closing thoughts from you as we.
What do you bring a new Governor General as a housewarming gift when you're a neighbor and they move into the house? You know, you show up with a casserole and a case of beer. I don't know. It's interesting to hear. You know, the phrases from Natasha Beck that steeped in human rights, brilliant, kind, has the right to be snobby, but is not. And also referring to her as a kind and thoughtful employer. That's going to matter at Rideau Hall,
sure does.
where there have been some struggles and challenges in the not too recent past. Certainly not under Mary Simon necessarily, but you know, prior to that, under Julie Payette, there were challenges there. So this sort of broad thinking, principled person moving into this job at this moment in time, it's going to be interesting to see how she approaches it in the public-facing roles beyond sort of this heavily choreographed day. I mean, she's clearly going to get used to getting managed, you know, with people grabbing her and ushering her along to stand on the next elevated red platform after another to hear the latest rendition of either the national anthem or God Save the King. But after today, she gets to start putting her stamp on the job. And the speech was, I think, quite a good introduction to a lot of Canadians, because while people would know her as being a Supreme Court justice and her other roles, you don't hear from the justices as broadly, you know, they're not as front and center in the political debates as they are, say, in the United States. So how she starts to put her print on it is going to be an interesting thing. She hit a lot of the same notes that the Prime Minister talked about on the big challenges, the need for unity, the need for perspective, taking that and translating it into an example and then into action is going to be an interesting thing to watch over the coming months and years.
And the thing about the role of Governor General, it can be very demanding as you want it to be in terms of travel and what you're doing. And then there's the external events that can happen and influence what you're doing, what your role is, and how you change that role to mark those events. And she certainly alluded to that a lot in her speech.
Well, look, there's the external events of the geopolitical world that we're in right now, and then there's the internal events on the national unity front that we're moving towards on a pretty rapid basis. And while Jean Chrétien made it clear early on the show, he's not that worried about it.
No.
I don't know if a lot of other Canadians share that level of zen, perhaps because they're not.
So it happens when you're 92, yeah.
Well, and you've been through it all, right? But you know, there is a political anxiety in the country in certain parts of it, no question. And you know, there is the generational anxiety that exists. You know, as young people struggle to get ahead in this country because of just the way, you know, wealth concentration and barriers to home ownership. You know, perhaps her 2 grandsons being with her as she did the walkabout and went to the National War Memorial, they're front and center in her thoughts as she made that point to young Canadians to work on yourself, invest to grow, but also pause and reflect and recognize that Canada does give you a lot of opportunities for fairness and freedom. And to harness that and take advantage of that, and how she's going to speak to that and be that example on the words she spoke today will be fascinating.
And I'll just say a couple of the other things that she was talking about that are very much reflected as well in the Prime Minister's choice. Institutions, her respective institutions, how much of her life she's dedicated to institutions, saying that institutions in this country allow for different viewpoints to be expressed and respected. This begins to give you a bit of a picture of who this next Governor General will be through what is a challenging time in this country and right around the world. An impressive speech speech going through a number of different issues that she thinks are going to be important to this country moving forward. My thanks to everyone who helped us through this special, including, of course, David Cochran, all the reporters, and the crew working hard behind the scenes. Thank you. This is an important moment in Canada's history. Thank you for joining us for it. Bye-bye.
Janet lives in England, Pierre lives in France, Bonnie lives in Canada, Ahmed lives in Egypt, Moshe lives in Israel, Bruce lives in Ching lives in China.
Do you solemnly affirm that you will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III in the office of Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of Canada, and duly and impartially administer justice therein?
I do. At every stage of her distinguished career, Her Excellency Louise Arbour has defended and promoted justice, dignity, and equality.
It is through our differences and our fundamental right to express them that we will nourish critical thinking, creativity, and innovation. It is through our differences that we will build a common future.
Dimitri lives in Greece, Sue lives in America. And each one is much like another, a child of a mother and father, a very special son or daughter. Love like me.